Hello and welcome to the Con Couple. I'm Richard,
I'm annoyed that you started this before I could pull up tabletop events.
and we go to far too many cons every year.
I'm Caroline. See, I got my name in there.
Yeah, you did.
You could
So,
just put our names in the description.
I don't.
I know, but you could.
I could. That would be I'd have to type things. And
I
that's
wonder how many
annoying.
people click off before we actually get to talking about the thing that we're supposed to be talking about.
Probably half of them. Where were we this week?
UConn, which, by the way, cool con. We'll talk more about it in detail. Your name makes it impossible to find you.
Yep.
Because there are a number of other things called UConn, like the University of Connecticut, that come up before this does.
Yep. It makes Googling you a bit of a pain in the neck, I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie. When I needed to check where you actually were so that I could plug it into the sat nav, I did have to Google Yukon, look at it, and go no, and then Google Yukon tabletop events. So if I hadn't known exactly what I was searching for, I would have had a much harder time actually finding the name of the hotel.
Yeah. So this is another tabletop convention. We did confirm that there was actually a week between Catacon and UConn last year.
Yep.
This year there was not. We're kind of hoping they're not going to be on the same weekend next year because the dates were already announced for Catacon and it's a week later and would be the same weekend this con is.
Yeah.
So let's just keep our fingers crossed on that one.
Yes, I think was Yukon moved a week earlier this year, or was
it did? And
yeah,
we've talked about this. Conventions in general are kind of beholden to whatever dates the convention center they're using has available. So some of them do tend to shift a couple weeks.
Yeah. Now,
sometimes they shift months.
Yeah, some of the stuff we're planning to go to
2026
Yep.
is already completely different months.
Yep.
And if you go to as many cons as we do, it becomes this puzzle of Tetris of what can you go to and when is it?
Yep. But I leave that logistics nonsense
Yeah,
to
you do
I
do everything. I don't actually do everything. You do the driving.
I do the driving. I load everything into the car. I do all the manual work. You do all the
I do all the
thinking
executive functioning things.
Yep.
Honestly, this is a division of labor does work, but
it's just something that's good for us to complain about sometimes.
Yeah, we both adore each other and appreciate each other's roles, respectively, though.
Yeah.
By the way, if you couldn't tell, we are recording this in our car.
Yep, as we always do. We use
in
hands.
keeping with the laws of Michigan and Ohio, because we use hands-free lapel mics. Sorry for interrupting you.
You're good. This is a conversation we would be having anyway on the drive home. All we do is record it.
Also, I do want to say we have beaten our streak of 43 cons this year. That was our goal. We've officially definitely beaten it at this point.
Yeah, if you include the weekends when we've done extra stuff and the cons we went to before we started this podcast, yep, this might be episode 40, but we have definitely done more than 43 cons this year.
Some weekends we've done more than one con.
Yeah.
So I'm happy we've met that goal. The goal for next year is 50.
Oh God, why would you say that?
What did you think it was going to be?
I mean, I knew that was going to happen. The problem is after that you'll decide the goal is 60, which doesn't make any logical sense.
Yes, it is. You can find other things to go to. I think you're underestimating us.
If you want to go to that many things, we need to actually make money doing this podcast so we can quit our jobs.
Yeah, please like and subscribe.
Yes, please do. Subscribe to the podcast. Do all the YouTube pleasantries if you're watching the YouTube version.
For the record, we're fine not making money off
Yeah.
this. We do appreciate people who listen to us just because it's fun and entertaining. If we did make money off this in some vague possible universe that's obviously extremely vague for those of you who can see our viewer counts.
Yeah.
It would probably be nice if you could stop working. I would continue to work.
Yeah, you would. Because you actually like your job.
Well, I also like my job, and I don't know how much streaming or podcast as an income is reliable enough that both of us should quit working no matter how well this is. And also, yeah, that's never happening, and that's fine.
Yep. Again, we record this mostly to keep ourselves awake on the drive home. It's either this or caffeinated the bejesus out of ourselves. Because this one's a long drive for us. This is about a 4-hour drive.
Yeah, we're going to try to, for the sake of everyone's sanity, not make this podcast 4 hours.
Probably.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah. So, where
I want to talk a little bit about.
Con?
We'll get there. It's in Michigan. It's in Ann Arbor, sort of. It's in the Ypsilanti thingy that I can't pronounce because it starts with a Y. But anyone who's been there understands what I'm talking about.
Ypsilanti? Yeah, who knows? Yes, is it a Marriott or is it a Hilton?
It is the Ann Arbor, despite not actually being in Ann Arbor, and also it's marked. The center has been used for cons, both marketed to be in Ann Arbor and in Detroit, even though it's kind of halfway between both Ann Arbor and Detroit, but whatever.
Yep.
The Ann Arbor Marriott Ypsilanti at Eagle Crest.
There we go. Those are some words.
Yes. So that said, this is a similar event to a Catacon. It uses tabletop events. We've talked about how tabletop events works, where you can log in and get tickets before.
Yep.
For smaller cons that don't have any sort of sorting system, you just kind of go in and it's free for all.
Yep.
I did miss the initial, when you could sign up and order tickets for this particular con, because we were at Colossal Con East this weekend.
That weekend.
And I will say they tend to open registration events early comparative for a type of size of con that it is. And they have a lot of events already up in August for a con that's in November, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And also, in addition to, I think, giving GMs a discount badge, also let GMs sign up for games early, which is an interesting perk to have as a GM. That said, we did not GM at this con.
We did not. We contemplated it, there was some discussion about it.
Contemplated it.
Boo. But ultimately, we were running stuff last weekend, and we knew we really wanted to run at a Catacon, and we contemplated running at UConn as well. With hindsight, I'm glad we didn't. We'll talk about why later.
Yeah.
But we just kind of decided that we didn't have the brain space for it, and there are things I definitely want to run, and I need to find the right con for. But we'll see.
Yeah, and this con is a little bit different than a Catacon in terms of demographics. It skews a little bit older, I would say, than a Catacon. Both
yes.
A Catacon, and I find tabletop cons generally do tend to skew a little bit older, more late millennial Gen X, and a little bit less millennial Gen Z that you get at anime cons.
Yes.
But this one in particular, you were at a table with a group of 70-year-olds for one of your games.
Yeah, I was.
That's absolutely awesome.
Oh, they were lovely people.
Games. Yeah. And they were perfectly encouraging, but it does, I think, tend to, in terms of demographics, skew a little bit older than a Catacon does. Yeah. Which is fine. I don't really know. And maybe it's been around longer. It's actually hard to pull up the history because, again, UConn is a hard term to search.
Yep. Because when we say UConn, it is literally just the letter U, a dash, and then con.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And their tabletop events website and their non-tabletop events website, because they both are great at talking to each other. It's kind of a little bit difficult to get from one to the other.
Yeah.
That said, it's still a great con, and one
yeah.
that I think I'm interested to delve into.
Yes. So should we talk about the venue a little bit?
Yes.
So we've talked about however the heck you pronounce it, Marriott before, because this is actually the same hotel that Motor City FurCon used.
And this is our second year at UConn also, so we've been here, I think, twice before. Once for UConn last year, and once for MCFC, which was our first time there this year.
Yes.
MCFC is moving hotels. We'll talk more about that hopefully in spring when we go to it. It's also moving dates, February instead of March.
Yep. Wait, January?
I said February.
Okay.
Which I assume has something to do with the new hotel, but this is not about that particular con.
Yes.
This is about this con. This con, I think, is probably going to stay in this hotel. It seems to be about the right size for it.
I would say it's about the right size for it.
I would say a fairly good space for a tabletop con.
Yes.
Not perfect, but good.
Yeah. So specifically, it's basically laid out with one big gaming hall that's used for open gaming, board gaming, that kind of stuff. And then there's an upstairs series of seminar/conference rooms. I'm unclear what the difference is in terms of how the hotel set them up. I think it's just the seminar rooms are a bit smaller and the conference rooms are a bit bigger. And most of what we were doing this weekend, in fact, I think everything we played this weekend that wasn't just us grabbing the table and open gaming, was in one of those conference and or seminar rooms upstairs, because that's where most of the tabletop RPGs were held.
Yeah. And we should preface this, in case you can tell from our last episode, if you're listening to both, we are tabletop RPG players primarily when we do tabletop cons as opposed to board gamers.
Yep.
We didn't start out that way. I think we started out about 50-50, and then have been just kind of shifting more to RPGs generally, because those tend to be, one, more fun experiences, two, we do have a board gaming group on campus, and it's actually fairly easy for us to play board games, whereas anyone who knows anything about tabletop RPGs knows how hard it is to get a table organized.
Yes.
Plus, both of us, I think, are a little bit of system junkies, where we're always interested in trying new systems.
Okay, so it's interesting. I'm a little bit of a systems junkie. What I really am is a rule. It's not even a rules junkie. It's a setting junkie. Like, I like playing in a bunch of different worlds.
What's interesting, I was going to say the same thing. That's normally what I try to seek out when I'm like looking at games for us to do, is what's the system, what's the
setting,
what's the setting, world? Is this interesting and unique? Is it something I haven't done before, and is it something that I want to do?
Yeah. Like, last week, running Sentai and Sensibility, we bought that just because Power Rangers crossed with Jane Austen sounds like a really fun, stupid idea.
And it weirdly is in the Venn diagram of our interest.
Yeah. I've never actually seen an entire episode of Power Rangers. But I know a lot about it because of just, like, cultural osmosis.
And I'm a writer, and I've done a lot of Regency romance. So, like, a lot of Regency romance.
Yeah, and it's a fun time period to play with.
It is. I do, like, for me, the Regency and the Victorian era, I know they're separate eras, but they kind of just expand into each other for me. Mostly because I like the costuming of the Victorian era, but I do like the demurreness of the Regency era, and I kind of blend those time periods together a lot.
Yep.
Talk more about that, too. So, So where were we?
So we were discussing the room setup.
Yes. So the hotel has a major kind of main ballroom, which is typically, for this con, its main board gaming space. So the board gaming library is in there, and the tables on the, if you're entering left side of the room are for open gaming. So that's just somebody who can grab a board game and play. And the right side of the room typically are for board games. Yeah,
so specific preset events. Yeah, board games. And the one thing I did notice about that room is that the various tables all had like a little, just print off from Excel, nothing fancy, that just told you what game was supposed to be there at what time.
Which is great.
That's useful.
I wish the RPG rooms had that. They did not.
They had it outside, taped to the doors.
Yes.
But the main problem we had with the RPG room, and this was kind of annoying all weekend, is...
Well, there were two problems. One of which was just the RPG rooms, they were all conference rooms, and the conference rooms outside are not labeled in any type of systematic form. That's not on the con. That's just on the venue. The venue, for whatever reason, decided to start at conference room F when you come up the stairs, and then it circles around back to A.
Yeah, so it's completely logical. If you start on the right-hand side...
where there's no stairs, and no one would go.
Yeah. Conference room A is there, and then you go round and follow that in an anti-clockwise direction. You get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H.
It's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And also, that's interspersed with seminar rooms, which have a different letter. They use numbers instead of letters, which I think is smart to keep them separate. But they're also interspersed and not next to each other, and it's just very confusing.
Yeah, like it's not a especially big space.
Like, you're going to find the room. If you just keep walking one direction, you will find the room you're in. Yeah. It's not the con's fault that they went with this very weird labeling system.
Yeah, again, once you've been through it like 2 or 3 times, you'll kind of know roughly where each room is.
Yes. And for this con, it seemed to be that we only went into one seminar room, but the difference seemed to be that conference rooms had multiple games going on, and seminar rooms seemed to have one game going on.
Usually a single, slightly larger table.
Yeah, and we didn't sign up to run events either of the years we've been to this con, so I don't know, but I assume you could probably request a seminar room if you had a reason to or wanted one.
Yep.
Which I would honestly recommend, just because the room noise bleed this weekend was higher than I would have liked. And cons have to work with their space. I might have just put one fewer table in each room, because it does seem like, we've commented on this, they had a lot of games that didn't necessarily wind up making, so they could have spread the tables a little bit further apart.
I think so. Which again, and the other thing that did kind of annoy us is your ticket would say conference room D, table 4.
Yep.
So you go to conference room D, and you go in, and none of the tables have a number on them.
No, basically, if you're a GM, you just kind of pick which table you're at, and a lot of GMs will like put their rule books or stuff like that out so people can easily identify them. And most of the GMs, with a couple exceptions, were early.
Yep.
And 2 of the rooms were entirely games by gaming groups. Both Matinee Adventures and We Hate Bards just had their own rooms. So in those rooms, there was generally somebody, I think, managing everything, where they could just tell you what table you were going to.
Yeah, generally, if you came into the room and looked like mildly confused, they'd be like, which game are you looking for? This? You're over there.
Yes, but those were gaming groups.
Yeah, those are gaming groups, but that is super helpful. Love it when a gaming group is able to do that.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about this. So briefly, and I think we might have talked about this before, I would highly recommend both We Hate Bards and Matinee Adventures. We've had fantastic experiences with all of their GMs that we've played with. They're great gaming groups.
I would agree.
That said, I have been asking, like, I think I mentioned this to you yesterday, I've been a little bit interested in, like, the point of a gaming group, and that's not saying that they shouldn't exist. But like the reasons they exist are still a bit opaque to me. Like they're very cool. I just don't know what purpose they have for actually like existing beyond just one thing they can do at bigger cons like Origins or Gen Con, which we've talked about in this podcast, is combine their effective points for running games to get better perks, which is definitely pretty cool.
Yep, yeah. So if it's something like Origins, your matinee adventures, you submit all your events as one big group. So between you are running like 100 hours of gaming or whatever it is. Yeah, which means you can get some of the higher tier perks, which is definitely worth doing, as opposed to submitting as an individual. And I think some of the bigger gaming cons like that, because for one thing, if you're a big enough group and you're running enough stuff, the bigger cons will frequently just give you a room that's yours all weekend or all like 5 days or however long the con is.
Yeah.
You know, which just it cuts down on some of their logistics.
Yeah, makes it easier. It also generally means if you're part of a gaming group, if one of your tables is close to making but not quite making, like say that you have 2 people showing up, typically you can get somebody else from that group to just sub in a spot a lot of the time, which is easier if you have multiple people. Like for us, like we volunteered to do that for each other when we've run before. Just like, hey, if you're at 2 and you need 3, I will be at your table. I can give up a ticket to this game so your game can run.
Yep.
I don't think this ever actually happened where we've had to do that. We've offered to do it.
Hasn't had to yet, because so far the only time a game of ours hasn't run was my Age of Sigmar thing way back at CincyCon.
Yeah, well, you might have to talk about that when we review CincyCon next year. Hopefully.
Literally nobody turned up to that.
And that had to do with a problem with their ticketing system. We might talk about it at some point.
Yep.
Which is not on. CincyCon is still a good con, I should also.
It is.
They're just ones that don't have as rigid a ticketing system as other cons.
Yes.
And it was a little bit confusing. Anyway. That's a very long tangent, but I don't know if there's any deeper benefit to gaming groups besides the extra perks you get at cons and just being able to go to cons with a bunch of friends and share hotel rooms. If there's not, absolutely fine. Those are very valid reasons.
Those are valid. Yeah, it's mostly just we were wondering if there was more to it than that.
Yeah, is there like some other thing that you get, or is it just a way of like training GMs or like keeping groups? I imagine another purpose when they're not at cons is probably just so that they can run events within their groups and get that information out to people who might be interested a lot of the time.
Yep.
And I imagine if you have a group of GMs, they're probably also sharing like tips and tricks. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
But, if you have any insight to that, feel free to email us at
concouplepodcast@gmail.com.
And we'd be happy to learn your experiences or interview somebody who's in a gaming group. You don't have to actually be in our car. Don't worry, Mike. Anyway, so that's part of the layout issues was just, I do think it was cool that they had smaller rooms for RPGs as opposed to having them down in the main area. I think that's the right idea.
Yes.
It's just the tables weren't labeled, and there was like just for whatever reason more nosebleed than I was expecting, and that's always going to be somewhat of an issue at cons. But part of the issues I think you're having with this con is because it skews a little older, trying to be ageist. You have more people who are hard of hearing and people who have a little bit of trouble projecting.
Yeah.
So that leads to a lot more communication issues than you're normally getting.
Yeah. Yeah, like it says something that some of our better like RP moments this weekend definitely came in rooms that were quieter for whatever reason. Usually because there was just fewer people in them.
It also, I think, makes players a little bit more comfortable because they're not having to like shout, have these experiences. And for some types of games where you're getting pretty intimate, it's just easier to do that in places where it's quieter.
Yeah.
They also had something that was interesting with scheduling that I assume is just something that's, I didn't see it actually listed anywhere, but it seemed to be something that was just recommended, even though I didn't see it listed anywhere. And I did go through because I remember going through the GM submission things just to check. I didn't see it recommended there either. But they have suggested, it seems, start times that just everyone seems to intuitively follow of 9 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m. for when pretty much all games start.
Yep.
Which means all games are starting at either 9, 2, or 7 p.m., which means rooms at those times are packed.
Yep.
And typically, if you're playing games that are not at those times, those rooms are a lot quieter for at least the first hours or when there's not overlap.
Yeah.
That also means that pretty much all games, with few exceptions, run for 4 hours, regardless of whether or not they actually need a 4-hour time slot.
Yeah. There were definitely some that were just pegged for a 3-hour slot, but there were a lot of things that were set for a 4-hour time slot, kind of didn't need it, but again, we'll talk about that once we get onto individual events.
And the advantage with that shorter time slot, if you're on something like tabletop events, is it doesn't let you double book. So if something goes until 6 p.m., you couldn't then, if the game started at 2 and ended at 6, and you wanted to play something that started at 4, tabletop events wouldn't let you. And that makes a certain amount of sense. Obviously, people shouldn't be doubling up on tickets for games that they can't play.
Yeah.
But
if a game runs short, you can end up with a fairly fairly lengthy break.
Yes.
And in terms of options for what to do during that break, there's not a massive amount.
Mm-hmm.
Insofar as, it has a vendor's hall. It's what, half a dozen stalls, maybe 10, something like that.
And there's obviously board games you can play, and sometimes you can. We did this a couple times. Just hop to a table that needed people occasionally, which is cool.
Yep.
But it is something that if you are planners like we are, it's nice to kind of be able to get a couple more games in. And sometimes I purposely pick shorter games just so I can play more different stuff while I'm at a con. So shorter time slots, and I feel like a little bit more variation in time slot would also be good. Like most people at cons I do morning game, afternoon game, and evening game, but they don't necessarily all have to start and end at the exact same time.
Yep.
Especially since there's also, if it's a 4-hour game, all these time slots are designed so you have an hour break, which I do think makes sense for like lunch and dinner. Unless you're like me, who just doesn't eat.
Yeah.
So, weaklings.
Hey, I was eating good this weekend.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk more about that.
Yeah. So, is there much else to say about the hotel? I will talk about the food at the hotel. The hotel does have available food. They have a restaurant on site if you want to go to. We didn't try that. But they did also have just a basic food stall or series of tables set up, which was it was the usual like basic burgers, chicken tenders, tater tots. It was aggressively fine. The chicken and the tater tots were overpriced, but basically good. Like $12 for chicken and tater tots. Yeah. $5 for a soda, which is complete BS, but
Yeah, it was pretty much constantly available though, and it has more options than a Catacon does, which I don't think is on them. But
again, that's just on the menu.
Yeah. There was a food truck outside, wasn't there?
There was a coffee truck outside. So if you wanted like coffee, smoothies, all of that, like tea, any of that kind of stuff, that was outside.
Yes.
We didn't end up using it. I think it probably did hot chocolate as well, because during one of our games today, when we took our bio break, somebody came back to the table with what was blatantly hot chocolate, and I'm assuming that's where they got it.
Yeah, it was fairly cold this weekend. It is November, so we're recording. So, other than that, there was the vendor's hall was a separate room that was kind of on the right side of the convention center, and there was a larger auditorium that was at some point used for a charity auction, and I assume a couple other stuff at some point. But this is a fairly small convention. I would say less than 500 people, guessing.
No clue. If you told me it was over 1,000, I would call you a liar. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, I haven't the foggiest.
We're not great at guessing. It seems similar size to a Catacon.
Yeah. And crammed into a little bit more space, I think.
Yeah.
Or a little bit less space, I mean.
Yeah, less big convention center, but there were more options for smaller tabletop rooms, which you think would make it quieter, but weirdly doesn't.
Weirdly doesn't. Yeah.
I do appreciate what they're trying to do. I was just a bit surprised by the nosebleed this weekend. And I do recognize that, any tabletop con is going to have some nosebleed. That's just a part of it. It might also just be that we were with people who didn't know how to project as well as last weekend.
No, there was definitely more nosebleed.
Okay.
I will tell you that. I think mostly it just came down to the tables were closer together. Mm-hmm. I think that's just the main thing. Because of the way a Catacomb was set up last week, there was enough distance between each individual table that, you had a constant general background hum, but you weren't getting too much specific table talk from another table.
Yeah.
Whereas these ones were a little bit closer together, so you were frequently just getting dialogue drifting over. Which again, fine. It does occasionally mean you run into, if you're at an 18-plus table, and the table not that far from you has kids at it, because that's not an 18-plus table.
Times,
that happened at least once.
You do have to kind of be careful about your language.
Yeah, it's we need to tone the language back. We need to just be a little more cautious. Again, it's not a major problem. It's just sometimes if I'm playing an 18-plus game, I want to be able to curse.
Yep.
Not have to say, blast and botheration.
That's a good one, though.
I've got a lot of really good, British cursing euphemisms. It's great.
We did grow up in British education where they beat you if you curse.
No, they just, Okay, so I'm not posh enough to have gone to one of the schools where they get the older boys to beat you. Mm-hmm. I just went to one of those normal, secondary schools where they just look at you disparagingly.
In fairness, I imagine it's still probably like there's some states where it's still acceptable to hit kids for whatever the heck reason. I imagine, I think in private schools or charter schools or some of the ones that aren't subject to state laws, it probably still is ethical. Please don't write us in about that. I don't need to know about those atrocities.
Yep. Let's not deal with that. So, yeah.
Your voice got more British.
Of course it did. It always does. So, I need to tone that back. So, yeah. So, is there anything else about kind of the venue that we want to talk about?
Well, some more stuff might come up as we're going on. There are bathrooms on each floor. I mostly wind up using the ground ones because you have to go up like extra stairs to get to the ones on the top floor.
Mm-hmm. It is worth noting that if you have a game that's down the far end of kind of the what I'm going to call just like the RPG corridor, you've got to go all the way back to the central area to get to a bathroom. It's mildly annoying. If you have mobility issues, it's probably a massive pain in the neck.
Yeah.
Like I could do it in like less than a minute because I walk pretty fast. But if you have mobility issues, then plan ahead. Make sure the bio brakes are of sufficient length. Yeah.
And yeah, other than that, temperature, which we might talk about a little bit this weekend, was kind of just all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, like some of the rooms were pretty were pretty good. Others were just kind of like there was at least one day when I was sitting at the table and my coach was going on and off throughout the entire session, and I wasn't the only person at the table like doing something similar.
Which again, not on the con. I do remember at MCFC last year, for which temperature is a lot more important because people are in fursuits. There were massive cooling problems with the upper hallway.
Yeah.
This thankfully didn't have that level of problem, but it's very clear that I think their HVAC system needs updating.
Yep. Yeah, I get the impression that parts of that center haven't been updated in a while. The Wi-Fi in it is goddamn fantastic.
Yes, we have worked in that convention hall before.
Yep.
And it's free.
Yep.
Right, so we shifting in chronological order?
I think so at this point. So this was one where we actually drove down on Thursday.
Just because we were playing games at 9 and it's a 4-hour drive.
Yep.
Which it seemed like the smart decision. We brought special guest Emma,
who
was our dog, who was conked out.
Yeah, Emma's very tired. Yep. She's just napping. But yeah, so got off work at like 5 o'clock, went, packed, got on the road. So I think we got to the Airbnb at like 10.
Yep.
And again, perfectly fine Airbnb.
Yeah.
No real complaints.
Yeah, I think the main issue we came up with that night that we probably should address, because it does color our perception of the next day, was just Emma is trained to behave in public.
Yep.
She's very good at that.
Yep.
Registered service dog, knows when she's in public she's working, and tries very hard not to bother anybody. The only thing she's still kind of, I think, working on is she hears a door knock, sometimes she barks.
Yep.
Did scold her for twice today.
Yes.
Just because, unfortunately, if you're in a game room, like people knocking on tables to emulate people knocking on doors actually is something that happens with relative frequency.
Mm-hmm.
But she's getting better at it.
She is.
But when she's at home, sometimes she can be what we call an unholy terror.
Yeah.
And she picked that night to be an unholy terror, where she did not want to sleep.
Yep.
And therefore did not want to let us sleep.
Yeah, so I think it got to like 4 in the morning, and she hadn't really let you get any sleep, and you just put her with me, and she didn't let me get any sleep after
So basically, we got a combined total of 8 hours of sleep between us.
Yeah.
How well that was divvied up was just, I think I got about 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I think I was ready to go maybe 4.5.
Yeah.
Maybe 5.
So we were tired and grumpy.
Yeah, and we did caffeinate the bejesus out of ourselves.
We did, but obviously... But we heard this commented on quite a bit at this con, that people seem sleepier for whatever reason. I don't know if that's just the changing of the seasons or the time of year, or the fact that we are just officially into cold weather now.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I'm like taking my work laptop home just in case it snows.
Mm-hmm. And there's also the fact that the days are getting shorter, and that tends to make people a little bit sleepier. And it's hard if you're obviously a person whose energy feeds off other people's energy to be not sleepy. But that was just something that happened the night before. We caffeinated the bejesus out of ourselves. We rearranged a ticket last minute that night, just because we happened to notice that a GM was doing a game at a time slot where we traded out tickets, so we did that.
Yep.
And then we got to the con around, I think, 8:30 the next morning, because our first game was at 9 for registration.
Yep. And again, registration process, nice and simple.
We should point out parking.
Yes. So it's interesting. Parking, there's just a parking lot outside the hotel. Fine. It was free. Mm-hmm. Just all weekend. Like, it has barriers. The barriers were just up all weekend. which is interesting because, again, the last time we were at this was, so last year, parking also free.
Yes, for Yukon it was free.
For MCFC, it wasn't.
Yes.
So we suspect the con probably has to like pay extra for the parking to be free for the guests or something like that.
Or some other type of thing, or maybe it's like a stopgap. At MCFC, there are significantly more people, and like parking at peak hours is a problem. Not a problem for us because we're FreeCon peak hours are like 7 p.m. to midnight.
Yeah.
We're not. Our peak hours are like 9 a.m. to maybe about 10 p.m. at the latest, so we don't have problems with parking.
Yeah.
So that might have been a deterrent for them to like make sure that like
but parking was being used by people who actually wanted it.
Yeah, at the con, and then having people who couldn't afford it or just were walking in or living nearby work further away to encourage people to take different transport. I don't really know.
Or to carpool or whatever. But
it did mean sometimes that con, if you couldn't find parking, you had to pay and then get your money back. We never had that problem. I know some people did.
Yeah.
That said, this con, it's just free.
It's just free.
Free parking is best parking. Free parking next to the venue is great parking.
Yeah.
So.
And again, like we did not have a problem getting parked at all this weekend. I don't think I ever saw it completely full.
Mm-hmm.
So they're always at like, you might have had to go like towards the back where it's going to be like a 3-minute walk as opposed to a 2-minute walk. But other than that, like, no, it was fine. So generally I was quite happy with the parking.
Yeah, they did salt outside. I assume we're in Michigan, so it's cold up here, and we probably are in danger of freezing ice at night.
Yeah.
Which is wearing long ball gowns is mildly annoying, but it's winter. They have to do that. I get it. Me being mildly inconvenienced is better than somebody getting into a car accident. So yeah.
Yep.
So we got in. Registration had a bit of a line. I just sat down and had you get in line.
Yeah, because do you want to tell them what you were wearing this weekend?
On that day?
On that day.
What was I wearing that day?
I
was wearing my Christmas dress.
Yes.
I've decided to start wearing that one because, there's only one time of year when I can wear it, and we're now in it officially. I don't care if you think Christmas starts after Thanksgiving. I don't care.
Yep.
Because, it starts whenever we feel it in our hearts, and I want to wear it when it's time appropriate, and I was doing Good Society later that day, and it's...
vaguely Victorian.
Yes. It's the same as the green dress I wore last weekend, just in a different color.
Yeah. Specifically red and white striped.
Yes, which was cute.
Yep.
The white wig, and I had my reindeer plush with me. So I went to sit down because I brought 3 reindeer plush because I didn't want any of my reindeer plush to feel bad because some of them got chosen and others of them didn't.
Yeah. So I went and stood in the line. It was moving fairly quickly. I was probably in it for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Again, scan the QR code that Tabletop Events emails you, print off your tickets, and this is one that actually prints off your tickets and hands them to you. Which fine, apart from the fact that they did comment on the fact that give it a good 10 minutes before you attempt to touch them because the ink will be wet way longer than you think it should be.
Yeah, I will admit I don't really understand because some cons print off tickets to have GMs collect them basically. This con doesn't seem to do that. You just kind of have them, and I don't really know the point of having them.
So they did say that you could turn them in. A couple of our GMs mentioned that that's a thing they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But half of them kept forgetting to ask for the tickets, and I don't know if they actually bothered turning them in.
Some cons I know do it in part because I want to keep track of numbers and what games are filling and what aren't.
Yeah.
This con doesn't seem to care about that, which is absolutely fine. I think what makes a game fill is a very random thing, and I also think if somebody gets a ticket off tabletop events, because some people are concerned about people who are getting tickets but aren't showing up, that's the same thing. That's just the same thing. If somebody gets a ticket off tabletop events but doesn't show at the table, they still had a ticket. They still were interested in the event. Yeah, it's kind of shitty don't do that, but I don't understand the difference between just looking at tabletop events to see if a game's filled as opposed to getting a physical ticket at the table for a con or organization.
Whereas something like we know for a fact that Gen Con is militant about GMs collecting those tickets because they won't reimburse you. If you don't, if you're supposed to be running X amount of hours of gaming, and you're getting the appropriate reimbursement, unless they have evidence that people turned up and played your game, they won't reimburse you, and that's just mean. Yeah,
I think it's something to do with numbers and who gets what space and stuff like that. Because Gen Con, even with it being as big as it is, space is still limited. So there's what games are effective and what games aren't. But I don't actually think that's a metric you can really measure because it's particularly for RPGs where it's a 5-person table. it's completely random whether or not somebody who's interested in that specific game is going to be wanting to play that game at that particular time or not. Like, it could be something that gets 1 ticket 1 year and 6 tickets the next year.
Yep, you never know.
So yeah, the one thing that's useful from it from a player perspective is it does have the stuff printed on it, which means you don't have to look at your phone because it has the location and time printed on it, so you don't have to like look at your phone to figure out when your stuff is.
Yeah, or
which
where
is
it
nice.
is, which is super useful. So yeah, so went got our tickets. They didn't have a problem with me picking up yours as well, which is always good.
And they can also be useful, I guess, if you had like somebody extra at your table show up who didn't have a ticket and you didn't want more than 5 players in your game. But keep in mind, if you're running games typically on tabletop, it does tell you the player's name, so you can just ask their name.
Yep.
And then if they weren't on the list, just tell them no, even if they didn't have physical tickets. So.
Yep. So yeah. So what was the first game? That was the Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah, Genesis game.
Genesis game. Thank you. So this was actually the only game we played that was in a seminar room.
Yes, which is why we think that they are different. And it was nice to be in a seminar room so you could talk. Wasn't quite what we expected, though.
No, this was another one. So one of the things we praised at Catacon for that I definitely think Yukon suffers from, or doesn't do as well, is at a Catacon, the descriptions of the events were fantastic in terms of letting you know what you were signing up for. Like you were, when you submitted your events, you were encouraged to be as detailed as possible so that people know what they were getting. At Yukon, most of the event descriptions are kind of vague.
Yeah. The other thing that I really like that a Catacon does is it like puts in the adventure descriptions, or at least I know Michael encourages people to put in the adventure descriptions, and I always do 100% of the time when I'm doing this. If it's going to be an RP heavy game or not.
Yes.
Like RP heavy, rules heavy, what's it going to be like?
Yeah.
Although this game does say rules light in the description as I'm pulling it up, and I'm not sure I fully agree with that.
I mean, compared to some systems, but I would probably have called it more of a rules medium. If I'm
it's
honest.
definitely a rules medium game. I can see how somebody would think this is rules light if your focus is basically on RPGs.
Yep.
I was just kind of grumpy when I was showing up, and this was not quite what I expected. I don't think that's really on anyone. I do get that sometimes games aren't going to match descriptions, but I was hoping this was going to be, because it said it was a choose-your-own-adventure type of collaborative storytelling, and I love collaborative storytelling. The game didn't really have as many of those elements as I was expecting it.
No, it was more of a traditional TTRPG.
It was like kind of just generic fantasy adventure that had a different system that was the Genesis system that you were testing out, which is fine. If I went into it knowing it was that thing of like, oh, we're just playing this system, it's Genesis, and we'll have a generic fantasy adventure in a Genesis system, I probably would have liked it fine.
Yeah.
I was just a little bit disappointed that it didn't have the more collaborative storytelling elements.
Yeah, because you and I both really love that, but you really love collaborative storytelling.
Yeah, it's also just one of those things, and I did have this conversation a couple times with other female gamers, just like, sometimes when you're at a table and you're the only woman, you're just like, damn it. And it's not necessarily because any of the players are sexist or bad. It just means you have to negotiate a table where you don't know if any of those players are sexist or bad.
Yep.
And does that make sense?
Oh, no, I get that.
Like, I want to be clear. No one at this table was sexist or bad. But as a woman, you don't know that. And if there's not another woman at the table, you don't have an ally. And that just kind of sucks.
Yep. Yeah. So again, the system itself, I think, is perfectly fine. Rather than using numbers on the dice, it uses like it's basically triumph, which is like super success, success and advantage, and then
I need you to back up what I said.
Oh no, I
briefly.
agree with you 100%.
I know, it's just one of those things where if I say it, it's something that sounds like I'm being persnickety, whereas if you say it, it sounds legitimate.
Gaming generally has a sexism problem sometimes. It's getting better.
It's getting better, and I want to emphasize this is not on any of the players at the table. That's more me just looking at a room and seeing a bunch of people who were traditionally what look like gamers and feeling a little bit uncomfortable, because sometimes people who look like that have been caused not great experiences for me in the past. And that doesn't mean that these people were going to, and they don't deserve to be discriminated against because they look like traditional gamers look like. But that does mean it sometimes is a little bit hard for you to kind of feel comfortable at a table.
Especially when you're running on nowhere near enough sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, again, I don't disagree with you.
Yes. Now you can get into the system.
Thank you. So yeah, basically, like, triumph, success, an advantage, and then like the opposites on the other side, failure. So like you're basically just rolling a bunch of dice, and it's like, oh, you might you might fail, but in so doing, gain an advantage, or you might like succeed, but with but you'll gain some kind of negative consequence of a threat, and it's like it's fine.
Mm.
Like I get the desire to take the numbers out, but it does also mean you've got to stare at a bunch of symbols and like and go, okay, so I've got 3 advantages and 2
That
threats,
cancels
so that
it.
cancels. It's perfectly fine and
Like,
functional.
I do like it insofar as, like, sometimes, look, on some dice rolls, you're just supposed to succeed. Like, if you don't succeed, the story just stops. So you need to succeed on that die roll. And if you don't, the GM has to scramble to make up a thing about that. On this, in those situations, you can come up with a way where you somehow succeed when you need to, even though the dice gods were mean to you. Like, you have to suffer a consequence for it, but you could still do it in a random way. Like, I did that actually fairly early in the story where, like, I failed a roll, but because I was a bard, obviously, one of my favorite classes, and my playing was actually so bad it was distracting.
Yeah.
And the GM, I remember, really liked it when I did that, because he was like, yeah, that's how you're supposed to play.
Yep.
Which is cool, but it is hard to kind of think on the fly for a game like that, and it's hard to kind of do in a one-shot a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's, I want to emphasize everyone at this table was good. Some of the players, I will say, at this con do seem to be a little bit, I don't know how to describe it, there's just kind of a moment at the table that
was... I would say a little short,
yes.
like short-tempered almost.
Yeah, there seemed to be not as much goodwill at this con throughout the weekend, and there was a brief exchange between 2 players, both of which had some fair points that happened. I don't really want to get into the detail because it wasn't even my like mild argument, but it was something where I was just like, I don't understand why this exchange, which could be happening pleasantly, is happening unpleasantly.
But again, like it didn't sour the table or anything.
It didn't, and like neither of these people are bad people, but it was a bit weird. Yeah,
they both got over it pretty quick, I think.
Like I doubt anyone who's playing this game even remembers those moments besides us. It's just female at a woman at a all-male table. You're a little bit on higher alert for stuff like that, and I think that's why I remember it.
Yeah, like I freely admit I'd forgotten about it until you reminded me of it earlier.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize that none of these people were anything but perfectly polite to me.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I liked it. It was cute.
Again, it was perfectly fine functional fantasy.
Yeah, I think the GM was good at explaining the game and the rules, and it's a great way, like, if you went to this going in, like, I'm going to learn what the Genesis system is, and if I like it, this would be a great way to do that. That wasn't quite what I was experiencing that moment. But yeah, it was good.
It's mostly it's a case of it was good, but not quite what we wanted as our first game of the con.
Yeah, we wanted something a little bit lighter, a little bit more role play to kind of get us limbered up for like other stuff we wanted to do.
Yes.
And instead of doing that, it was just kind of a generic fantasy adventure, which is good. I will admit this is probably going to be a game in a few months because of how many games we play that I just kind of forget about.
Yeah.
Which is why we have this podcast.
Exactly. So, after that, I think because that one, again, the one thing I will definitely say, and we did kind of mention this a little earlier, a lot of games wrapped early this weekend.
This one went to time. It was supposed to go 3 hours, and it did. But honestly, we could have kept going.
Yeah. Like, it felt like we rushed the ending, and I'm not sure if that's just because the GM spent half an hour explaining the rules at the start. Yeah,
there's a couple different styles of GMing. I think the one I prefer at cons is just you kind of give somebody a character sheet, and when it's time to do something, you then explain to them how to do it, as opposed to just dumping all the rules at the beginning.
Yep.
I can't follow rules like that. I just can't. I have to, like, actually play to get it. I think you're the same way.
I'm the same way. Like, I can read a rule book 5 times until I actually play the game. I'm not going to get it.
Yeah. Like, when I GM, I try to, like, tell characters the most important things they need to know to start the story, and then the rest kind of comes up during the game.
Yeah.
Like, the major things I think you need to tell players are just what they can roll and what the possibilities are for the world, and then let stuff fill out from there.
Yeah. Again, especially at a con game.
Yeah. But this was cute. Not a lot of role-playing. Kind of a theme for this weekend.
Yeah.
And then I think it was scheduled to go for 3 hours. GM did hell for 3 hours, which meant we had a 2-hour break because, again, games start at 9, 2, and 7. So there was a 2-hour break between 12 when we ended because games started at 9, 3 hours, and 2.
Yep.
So you went and got food?
Went and got food. That's when I tried the chicken tenders and potato tots, and again, they were aggressively fine.
And then we went to the board game hall and played a bunch of Splendor, which I won.
Like always.
Yes. You've won 3 times.
Yeah. Out of several hundred games of Splendor that we played.
I can't tell if I'm actually good at Splendor or if you're just, like, not good at Splendor.
Again, we've had times when we've got like when I got close.
We have talked about this because I was tired that day, so the scores were close.
Mm-hmm.
And you have talked about how like it's clear when I'm tired I am worse at Splendor, and you seem to be the exact same level of good at Splendor.
Yep. It doesn't really affect, like, being tired doesn't affect how good I am at that game. Probably because, like, I think normally you're thinking like 3 or 4 moves further down the line, and I just don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that when you're tired you can't do that as well, it puts you closer to my level.
The thing that I don't like, I guess if you want my like secret Splendor strategy, it's not that I think 4 or 5 moves down the line. I definitely do that. But the thing that I have a harder time doing in Splendor when I'm tired isn't the thinking 4 and 5 moves ahead. I still have a plan. It's harder to pivot. Like, because of how Splendor works, where new cards come up, you need to be able to pivot. And when I'm fresh, I can pivot a lot more easier than when I'm tired. When I'm tired, I'm like, nope, I'm just going to do the original plan. It doesn't matter.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I will say Splendor, great 2-person game.
Yep. Like, traditionally considered not. It's usually like 3 to 5, but it works great with 2. So yeah. So we did that for a little bit. I think did we play anything else? We might have got like something that was short as well.
Mm-hmm. We did try a couple new games. I will say the games table was fantastic. Traditional board game library. I think what did they do to check out games at this one?
Pretty simple. You just write your name, write the game, and write the time that you check it out. And then when you hand it back, you write the time that you handed it back to them.
Yeah, pretty
nice
simple.
And simple.
Yeah, it doesn't require badge checking or anything. They did have they had a nice display of like recommended games that fit a theme. Like we got there once and it was like the lunchtime theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we got there a little bit later and it was like the dexterity game theme that were just out on a table for people to like see if they were interested in that type of game.
Yep.
It's cute.
That was a cute idea.
And the entire game table was like recommending games to people.
Yep.
A lot of the time. So if you were just like, I want a game that is short, easy to learn, and works with 2 people, they could find something that would fit that description.
Yep.
Which
and they did a good job of that.
Yeah.
Again, the game they recommended to us was pretty decent.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was called.
No, neither do I.
It's fine. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
So I played Splendor for a bit.
Yep.
And then this was the part of the con where we were separate tables, just because I could only get 1 ticket to Good Society.
Yep. So do you want to talk about your game first, or shall I talk about mine?
Well, there's kind of some intermixing of these, but I'll explain the basics of. I'll get to the cutoff point of mine, and then we'll explain yours, and we'll go back to mine, maybe. Is that too confusing?
No, that'll work.
So yeah, Good Society, if you're not familiar, is a largely GM-less. You have a story facilitator. Role-play, diceless. It's pretty much entirely social role-play. If there's conflict, there's ways of resolving it. There's typically not any conflict that actually requires resolving. Regency-era tabletop RPG experience, which hits so many of my boxes, it's not funny. I own it. I want to play it more. It's basically just collaborative storytelling in a Regency era with like romance, and it's so good. I love it. It hits most of my boxes. I think it does what it does well. It is a little bit clunky for con games at parts, because part of the mechanics involves setting up the world and your connections with people. That normally takes about a half an hour-ish. There's also a mechanic that allows you to write letters to people at the table after action scenes and start rumors. How central these are varies a lot to GMs. This is a game with a lot of house rules, because like most RP-heavy games that have no dice, all of the rules are basically there to help you RP. And if you don't need those rules, then they become cumbersome. If you do need those rules, then they're awesome. It also depends on how much you like letter writing.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of the same thing that we said about Fiasco last week, insofar so as like, if you're good at RP, there reaches a certain point where the rules where the structure starts getting in your way.
Yeah. Whereas if you're not, it's good. And I do think there's some elements of this that I actually do like. So you sit down, you have basically a character. One of the things you do with all the characters is establish their relationships. And then because Good Society is largely romance and also largely like stuff where it recognizes it's going to need a lot of background characters, in addition to your main character, you have a side character, somebody you're related to, that your character knows. So in my case, I was playing like an heiress, and my father was like the other character. And the nice thing about this game, to give people more stuff to do, is in addition to playing your own character, everyone at the table plays someone else's NPC, which I think you might remember from the Bachelor version of this we did.
Yes.
That was in main society. This was obviously more Austin-esque general society. Everyone makes their character. They talk about their goals, what they want to accomplish in the session. They talk about their NPC. Then we have conversations about, like, to what extent do we want it to be Victorian? What's the tone we want the game to take? How LGBTQ friendly do we want it to be? I will say that even if it doesn't start LGBTQ friendly, it generally gets there by the end.
Yeah.
And then you go around and you RP scenes based on your characters and what you want to do a lot of the time. It's interesting to also note that, like, you think this game would attract primarily women. It tends to attract a large variety of people, which is awesome. My table, I think, was mixed gendered of 3 femme identifying people and 2 masculine identifying people, all of whom were very game to play characters of all gender identities, which was also, and all of whom were very good at RP, which was also awesome.
Yep.
So the main 2 kind of monkey wrenches we had at this game was there were a couple people who clearly took a little bit longer to process stuff and had a bit problem speaking and hearing, and we were in a loud room, hence the noise pollution level thing. And the GM, and she did apologize for this, had to just kind of randomly take care of her small child, which it's not her fault. She explained that she originally did arrange childcare. That childcare fell through. She arranged a backup option for childcare. That childcare fell through. And her kid, who I think is probably normally good to just like watch an iPad like most kids, decided that today was going to be the day where they couldn't do that. And that just happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Which meant she was struggling a little bit. Absolutely not her fault. And again, as we mentioned on this podcast, we generally don't mention GMs or anyone's names unless we have their explicit permission to do so. We try to use preferred pronouns. This con did have pronoun badges, which most people were using, which I think was nice.
Yep.
Also fair to shout out that this con also had masks just available if you needed them.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know how many people were using them.
It's more than you would expect. Like, decent chunk of people.
Which, again, probably because, as we mentioned, this con does skew a little older.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So yeah. And yeah, obviously I didn't find anyone experiencing stigma from wearing masks. And obviously if anyone feels like they need to wear masks, they absolutely have the right to do that. Going back to the game, she was just struggling a little bit with both. And then eventually around like the halfway mark, the kid kind of decided that they had enough. So I took over GMing. Mostly because I had experience with the game and like felt I could confidently run a table. Keep in mind, this game is largely GM-less. The facilitator is mostly just there to kind of help the plot move.
Yep.
Which I think I did a decent job at. I hope. Again, it's hard for me to know. But I did hear from the GM who, like, I think had talked to one of the other players that she heard that the rest of the game went well, which I took as a compliment. And it wasn't her fault. The thing I really appreciated her doing was, like, letting us continue to play as opposed to stopping us from playing. Because a lot of GMs in that moment would be like, well, I can't run the game, so the game has to stop. That GM, like, encouraged us to keep going because I think she felt we could handle it, and we could. And the game got really good after that, not because she was holding it back. Mostly because the room cleared out. There's no longer a small child screaming, not the kid's fault. And there also were less tables at that point, so everyone could kind of just RP fluidly. So, we'll talk about your experience with that, because you ran in to play a character for half a second.
Yeah, you got me to like quickly run in during a short break during my game to RP a character for you, because you needed a pompous nobleman.
Mm-hmm.
I got him challenged to a duel.
Yep. So I'll talk about the ending of that in a bit, if you want to continue with your stuff.
Sure. So while you were doing that, again, because you'd only managed to get 1 ticket to Good Society, you originally got me something else. I can't remember what it was.
And then I was like, no, you have to pick your own thing. I'm not doing this for you.
Yeah. So I looked through, and I found something that was just labeled a night in the British Museum. And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. So this game system was, I think it's the Fellowship of the White Star or the Society of the White Star, or something along those lines, which is a system based around the concept of magic during kind of like the Victorian-esque era. So you're playing as members of a secret society called the Fellowship of the White Star, who are basically like investigating magic and using magic and doing all that kind of like fun stuff, while being a bunch of, well, one of them was literally a British aristocrat, or actually no, he was a French aristocrat. My apologies. And just kind of working together. This was an interesting table because, like,
well, you were nervous because you were like the only person signed up to play this.
Yes, I wasn't actually entirely sure this game was going to run.
Yeah, and our backup plan was just ask the GM if you could have joined, which I think she probably would have said yes.
Probably would have been fine with, but yeah. But yes, I wasn't entirely sure this game was going to run because, again, like, according to Tabletop Events, only one ticket had sold. And like, RPing with like playing a game like that with just one person at the table or one plus the GM, it's a bit awkward and weird.
Yeah.
But no, so I think this was effectively like a group of a gaming group of friends who were just kind of running a few of their modules at this convention so that they could potentially like find new people who are interested in the system and make friends with them. And yeah, like this was a table that was on the older side. The GM, I think, was the youngest person there, and none of the players was younger than 70, I believe, based on what they said, apart from me,
who is not close to 70. We should emphasize
yet. Give me another like 40-ish years, and I would get there. But you know. But no, it was a very interesting system, interesting like world and setup, because apparently in their previous adventure they prevented the sinking of the Titanic.
Ooh.
Specifically because you know they slayed the ice elemental that would be mistaken in our history for an iceberg. You know, and so it definitely likes to play with like you know his actual historical events and tropes and things like that, and just kind of give you the opportunity to play them out in a different way. So yeah, interesting little system.
People, I stopped by your table after we were done. Like people at your table seemed quite friendly.
Oh, very, very friendly group of people. You know, they were very happy to have me there. Which, like, coming into an established group like that can be a like really like
especially when they're all over 70.
Yeah.
Not saying that over 70-year-olds are bad, just saying that they've already kind of made their friends in life. This group seemed very much interested in new friends.
Yeah, they did. Which hey.
Yeah.
I appreciate that fact. You know, and they were very nice, very friendly. I get the impression they kind of trade off who GMs, so that they all have the opportunity to play, which is interesting.
Well, it's interesting to see gaming from the perspective of people who like have lived through D&D starting, which we obviously haven't. Like, I wonder what games were even like before D&D. I assume they existed. D&D didn't start the role-playing genre, as far as I know, but
it was the earliest successful one.
Yeah.
Like, I think up until that point, there were some systems that existed, but they were like mostly like homebrew stuff people made themselves, rather than like you know having established rules and all of that jazz. So yeah, very interesting system, interesting game. I had fun with it. My only real like criticism of it was, again, coming onto a table of people who kind of have played a lot and know what they're doing, and being the guy who doesn't know the system, did mean that there were occasions when like there was a little bit of like backseat gaming where they were like, oh, you should do this, because they kind of knew what I could do in a way that I didn't. And like, that was them being helpful. You know, I probably would have figured most of it out on my own if they'd given me like a couple of minutes, but like, that's a very minor criticism in that regard. And I suspect if I'd said, stop doing that, I would have kind of figured things out for myself. I'm pretty sure they would have honored that without too many problems. Yeah. So yeah, we took a couple of bio breaks, which when I kind of ran out to help you. And
yeah, it was a little bit chaos, but I will say after the GM left, and not against them, it just, I think conveniently, because the room cleared out a little bit and everyone was a little bit quieter. Like, we kind of found our groove after that. Everyone seemed to be participating equally in the plot. Everyone seemed to be having fun. All of the people were doing fantastically. My only real criticism of the game is just like, I'm a romantic fanatic and I want to romance in games, which I did wind up doing a little bit later in the Lumberjack game. It was just, there wasn't enough romance for me. But I did wind up in a gay relationship with my best friend, so who can complain about that? Who's going to go to Cambridge and wear a strap-on to pretend to be a man?
Sure. So your game got weird.
The ending does tend to get weird, I feel like, with improv sometimes, just because you've yes-anded yourself. We were commenting about, like, because one of the, and this is, I think it's just something with role play generally, you do pick the genre at the beginning of the game. We picked, like, something that was, like, romantic, and kind of in between being serious and silly, kind of a bit of both. And then we definitely lean towards the silly aspects towards the end, but just improv gets there a lot of the time, and sometimes it's hard not to rein it back. This was the first time I had played where we wrote letters to each other, though, which I did actually really like as a mechanic, despite my handwriting being god awful. So yeah, I like that a lot. And this is, I think, the second week in a row where we've timed our games finishing almost the exact same time, which is nice.
Yeah, it worked out fairly well because you came in, you finished a little before we did. You came in and just pulled up an extra chair at the table, which again nobody minded.
Yep. And I think 10 minutes later you were done. So
yep. Yeah, we were basically in the final combat.
And both of these, I think, were listed as 4 hours. I think they were closer both to 3, but that felt about the right time period.
Yeah.
So.
And again, it was fun. I enjoyed it. You can definitely tell that they're kind of in the middle of a campaign and just playing a bunch of modules, and stringing their story together, which fine. It was nice to have the opportunity to kind of jump in like that.
Yes. And I did grab some of the GMs for my game stuff, just because I knew I had another game with her the next day.
Yep.
So I happened to look at the name, so I just grabbed it to give it back to her.
Yep. So, yeah. So, anything else to say about those two?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So again, at that point, a little bit of a lull, because again, 3 hour games that ran to about 3 and change, and kind of like that automatic 1 hour break before the next thing. So, at that point, I think we went back to the open gaming, and
we did. We had a dexterity game recommended to us. We played a similar game to this, where it's basically you have to play cards in a certain order based on matching patterns. I did like this one better, which was recommended to us by the tabletop board game library people.
Yep.
Better than the one we played last week, because it was slow enough that you could actually play it.
Yep.
The last one was just basically this word match, play it down. This one had patterns and stuff on that was good.
Mm-hmm.
I still won every game.
Yeah. You don't have to tell them that.
Okay. I didn't win every game.
What? You also shouldn't lie.
Okay. I won't comment on the number of games I've won.
So, we also played some Wavelength.
Yeah, we've just started making up our own categories to Wavelength. If you're familiar with Wavelength, yep. Everyone, I think, gets to this point where you're just making up your own categories.
Yeah. Some of which got weird.
Yep. A lot of which got personal.
Yep. Because that's how you play Wavelength when you're a couple. But yeah.
Also arguing about whether or not an octagon is a good shape or not. So
octagon is a fantastic shape.
Octagon is an aggressively mid shape.
Anyway. Again, these are the arguments you have when you're a couple.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what do we do? What was the late game? Oh, that was the late game, the Bake Off one?
Yes, it was the Bake Off game.
Yeah.
This was very cute. So this was by Matinee Adventures Gaming Group.
Was it?
Yeah, it was in the Matinee Adventures Gaming room because we said hi to the person who did.
I still don't think he's in Matinee Adventures.
He is in Matinee Adventures.
That room was across the hall. It was a different one. I'm still not. I think
I
he's in
will look it up.
Thank
okay, you explain the game.
Okay, so this was actually interesting because we've played a similar game in the past that was kind of Great British Bake Off themed, 2 years ago at Origins. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one's very much a little more refined, a little more close to being ready for prime time. Mm-hmm. Insofar as I think there's either a Kickstarter. It's either been kickstarted or there's a Kickstarter coming soon. And
it was written and created, I think, by the GM.
Yes, it was.
Maybe with some help from some other people, but I do think they were the primary creator.
Yes. And it's basically you are contestants on the Great British Bake Off, or Great British Baking Show, as it's called in the US for reasons I don't understand. It's something to do with copyright. But, there's magic involved, and, you can do whatever you want with your character, basically. So, one of the example characters was a crocodile man. Or you could create your own. So she flat told us that she'd run it earlier using the pre-gen characters, and as part of our session, she wanted to test out creating characters for in a con environment, and we were happy to do that. So we came up with our individual character concept. So it was you, me, and 2 other people.
Yeah, this was, by the way, a fantastic synergy of character concepts.
Yeah, we did.
Everyone did supernatural themed stuff.
Yeah. So one person based theirs on a kitsune.
Okay, so this is a separate gaming group. I apologize, and I think this is I don't know. the group it says is the Untold Stories Project.
Yes.
So, and they were also running games. So I think those, yes, the Untold Stories Project, also of whom has fantastic GMs, no complaints there,
Yes.
was the one who were doing Harley Quinn the musical. You were right. I'm not always right.
Thank you. So, as I was saying, so we had somebody who based theirs on a kitsune.
Who decided they were going to do a Japanese theme with their cooking because this person clearly does Japanese themed cooking in real life.
Yep.
I talked to them a bit about that. Somebody who was the GM's friend, who was also in the very Harley Quinn musical, who is the partner of the person who was running that game.
Yep.
Who is great. Was like, an emo vampire.
Yep.
Because I was dressed in my Christmas costume, I decided to just do a Christmas character plus Christmas baking. Easy. As somebody who doesn't do a lot of baking, Christmas themed foods and desserts are really easy to have a theme with.
Yep.
So that was most of my thinking there.
Yep. And I created Gordon Diablo, who is absolutely not a demon. Why would you ever insinuate that?
Yeah.
He's just wearing these sunglasses because it's bright.
Yeah, I do want to emphasize my character also worked at the North Pole and was a time traveler. I put energy into it.
You did. And again, everybody had fun character concepts, and the actual mechanics of this game are relatively straightforward.
Yeah, you're rolling a lot of die, and the die determines stuff. I kind of went into that knowing that, generally I don't like games that, involve just die rolling to determine stuff, because, you're rolling die for your stats, and it's just completely random what your stats are.
Yeah.
But, it's a one-shot where you're baking stuff.
Yeah.
The stakes are so low.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I do feel like at the current iteration of the character creator, because of the way the dice rolling works, the character, the person next to me who was playing the Kitsune, her character's stats were complete garbage.
Yeah.
Just as a result of just rolling badly. And that, I kind of felt bad for her on that front.
Yeah, I do think there should be, more of a range of stats, and the 3 stats were initiative, which I don't even think you really need that to be a stat.
Yeah, initiative is not really doing anything.
All it's doing is determining order, which is fine, but you can just roll a die and determine order. You don't really need an initiative stat to determine order, and I want to emphasize this game is very cute and well thought out. It's just I feel like there could be a couple more tweaks before it got to the final version.
Yeah.
And one is I would just get rid of initiative as a stat. There's no reason to have it, because I had a 9 in initiative, which meant I was going first more often than not.
Yep.
Whereas if you just have people roll for initiative each turn, no stat block or bonus,
Yeah, whereas my character had I spiked his will roll, which meant he was incredibly willful, which means he just never had a meltdown.
Yeah, honestly, what I would have instead of those stat blocks is just have different types of cooking stats, because cooking actually didn't come up that much.
Yep.
Will did. Will was your ability to prevent yourself from having a meltdown, which is of course part of this, because meltdowns are a part of Great British Bake Off.
Yep.
But I think having different cooking stats would actually be good, because it would try to get the bakers to be strategic about what they were baking, and maybe because being strategic also gives you opportunities to be creative, because when people are thinking strategically, they might think. So if you had somebody who's really good with sugar or sugar work, they might try to implement that more into their dish. Or people who are really good at chocolate might incorporate chocolate. So instead I might have people just roll a bunch of dice and then have them have different cooking skills that could give them potential bonuses, just kind of make it a little bit more immersive. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, it's one potential option. Mostly it's just flat die rolls for everything. I think, mostly I felt bad for the person whose stat block was 1-1-2.
Yeah. Yeah, it just felt like you should be able to roll die and take the high or take the mid at the very least.
Yep. Where as opposed to Gordon Diablo, who his cooking skill was hot garbage, but his will score was so good that.
Well, that's the other thing, is you don't actually roll cooking all that much in this game.
Yes, I did notice that.
So that's why I want maybe a couple more mechanics that are about cooking before the final version, just because I would like some more variance in cooking. And obviously, want it to be a game to play. Somebody who doesn't cook a lot, I would still want the game to be playable for people who don't know a lot about cooking to play.
Yep.
But I feel if it's just different types of cooking skill that everyone knows, that could be a way of incorporating it a little bit better. Yeah, basically everything else after that was straight die rolls telling a story, which I don't mind. For what it is, it's supposed to be that. So there's not really a way of fixing that as a problem, and I don't necessarily think it is.
No, again, it's basically a case of, okay, this happened, or the dice say this happened. Fill in the blanks.
Yes, which we did, and it's fun. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you fail, and you're able to talk about why you succeed and fail.
Yeah.
And obviously, the real fun of this game is coming up with crazy themed food concepts, which definitely works.
Yeah, like, so for one of them, Gordon, got that he had to make cream horns. So I had him use his actual demonic horns as like the mold for the cream horns, and like nobody else could see his demonic horns because he had them glamored. And I thought that was like a fun idea.
Yeah,
and, like,
I had a floating star for my Christmas tree cake.
Yep, like there was a lot of just like creativity and fun and like weird and great ideas.
Yeah, and I will say the art on this is amazing. It was
the art's really cute.
And did you mention that she had little baking kitchens for each of us to like play with?
I did not. Yeah, that was just a cute little extra thing. I don't think it's mandatory or part of the game.
It's not part of the game, and it might. Yeah, I assume because it's a separate piece, you can like sell it with the set or anything. Because these were clearly like toys that she bought. But these were like the types of things where if you were ever like somebody who was encouraged to play with femme presenting toys as a child, you would have had as a kid, which is just this like little miniature baking set that like waffles in and move stuff around, type of thing that you still kind of wind up adoring into adulthood.
Yep.
And very cute.
It was fun. Gave us all like little things to fiddle with throughout the thing.
Yeah, this was cute. Kind of delightfully sweet. Everyone at the table was nice.
Yep. Everybody understood the assignment. Again, nothing too like. It wasn't in any way heavy, but it was fun.
Yeah.
And again, like, I mostly I felt bad for the person who was stuck with a terrible stat line.
Yeah, she seemed to be having fun though.
She did,
and I loved her. Like her food, was clearly the best food. I think was the other part of the problem.
Yeah,
just because she is somebody who clearly cooks. So
yeah, she had really great concepts. Whereas like you and I were basically just memeing on our theming.
Yes.
Like again, Gordon's showstopper cake was based on the fall, as in like Satan getting kicked out of heaven. Like I thought that was really fun and funny, but like she had actual like good food concept ideas.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, we got much else to say about that?
No, again, it was very cute, very fun, very light, very fluffy, and what we expected, which
yes.
was nice. So, but very cute. I thought she was a great GM for what it was.
Yep.
There wasn't as much social interaction between the players, but I feel like if you're doing a bake-off RPG, that's just kind of how it works, where you kind of go through every player's turn as opposed to having them interact with each other too much.
Yeah. Again, it is one of the limits of, like, because that's the other thing I would mention. There was an aid mechanic where you could, like, help another player out.
But you took a penalty for doing it. And I do want to also emphasize your character was the clear villain on the show. So, like, I think the less aiding had a lot to do with the fact that no one wanted to help you, so.
Gosh, nobody needed to help me. I won.
You did win.
Because again, the dice gods were, thought Gordon was hilarious. But yeah, like, it's mostly just the aid mechanic should be the thing that encourages you to RP with the other players a little bit more.
So, like, maybe giving yourself a bonus. Because how it works in the show is, like, it doesn't necessarily take away from your bake if you're helping another person. Typically, most people only do it when they feel like their bake's at a point where, like, they don't need to do anything.
Yeah,
like it's in the oven or something.
Yeah, it's like, the cake has gone in the oven. I've got 20 minutes before I need to do anything now. I'm going to be nice and help somebody else out who looks like there's looks like they could use it. Yeah, so, like, again, I definitely think there are ways to tweak that would just encourage a little bit more role play.
Yeah, but it's very cute, and like coming up with all your desserts and stuff is very fun.
Yeah.
Also, that technical challenges are randomized for everyone, which I think is cool. She was worried about like you having too much time to prepare for your technical challenge, which mechanically actually doesn't make that much of a difference.
Nope.
But I do like having different technical challenges for everyone, just because it gives you more different stuff to bake, and that's very cool.
Yeah.
I got macarons, which are some of my favorite desserts ever.
Yep, that's when Gordon got his cream horn.
Yeah.
And again, like the cream, I liked the cream horn concept that I came up with. So, because again, like it encourages you to be creative with the complete nonsense you're making.
Mm-hmm.
And I do appreciate that it's it does just encourage you to like use magic or like weird science or whatever to just like let your creativity run free. And I think that's the thing it does do very, very well.
It does. And I do think I liked it better than the one we played 2 years ago. In fairness, 2 years ago, I also had a massive science fiction.
And we ducked out halfway through so you could order some clothes online.
Yeah. But no, this is very cute. It's pretty much, I think, designed for one-shots. It'd be kind of hard to do a campaign in it.
Yes.
I would need more elements, I think, for that. But for one-shots, it's very, very cute.
Yeah. Yeah, as a con game, this is absolutely adorable.
Yes. And it's also just great because it's like Like some con games are intense and higher stakes. This is just like you can just like sit back and relax and have fun.
This is chill. Like this is if the dice gods do screw you over, like
the worst thing that happens is your souffle falls, which is devastating in certain contexts. But I was honestly having too much fun with like just the concepts everyone created were so unique to this, and they played off each other perfectly, and it was great.
Yeah. So, hopefully everybody at the table had fun. I certainly did.
I did too.
So at that point, we were completely exhausted.
Knackered.
Utterly knackered.
Your entire like motivation for this trip was that you were going to try this place that we found randomly.
Yep. Last year,
I think, because we were just stopping for gas as we were getting back to our Airbnb last year, and
they had a burger place, specifically a Tasties burger.
And we were looking for fast food, and I was just like, I think that place is still open. It looks weird going there.
Yeah,
and it was very weird.
It was very weird, and the menu was fun.
Yeah,
they had a lot of weird, stuff on it. So yeah, so. I've checked. There's none much closer than like Ann Arbor or Detroit, so it's something I only get when we come up here. So I went there.
But they're a very weird regional burger chain that like is open till 2 a.m. for some reason.
That does a burger that, they have a bunch of them. The one I got on Friday night was the Volcano, which is a burger with like jalapenos and like spicy sauce and all that good stuff, and jalapeno poppers just in the burger. It's completely stupid and it's wonderful. So yeah, I ate way too much food when we got back to the Airbnb because I got a giant burger, some ridiculous fries with a bunch of stuff slathered on them, and some onion rings as well.
Yeah, Emma loved this place, but we did not let her have a bit of it. No, it's not healthy, but she wanted this.
Frequently when I'm eating, she will be like, "Hi, best friend, would you like to give me some?" This one, she was like, "Please, give me, please." And again, I'm pretty sure jalapenos are very bad for her.
I don't think she would like them, no.
No, but so I did not give her any of it, but she wanted it.
Yep. Like she went back into the room the next day because you could still smell it.
Yep. But yeah, so unfortunately, the place was, I think it added 3 minutes to the journey. Plus, obviously, the time I had to wait for the food to cook, but that was fine. So yeah, so that's what we did that night. So back to the Airbnb, pet the dog, who did at least sleep better than that night. So we actually got a decent night's rest.
Yep.
I do feel like this Airbnb was a little dry for whatever reason. I kept waking up thirsty.
Yeah, it did seem kind of dry. It might as well just be the air and the temperature and stuff like that, so...
not a major problem. I sleep with a glass of water in my bed usually, most of the time. So if I wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm just oh, my mouth, glug, and back to sleep. That's not a major problem.
Yeah.
So what do we start with on Saturday?
I'm looking it up now.
Yeah. So again, Saturday was obviously the busiest day of the con because plenty of people just had Saturday badges.
Yeah, more so than I think at Catacon. I don't really know.
Honestly, no idea. Because again, that's part of the problem with being in the RPG space. I have no idea how busy the main board game room was at various times. Pretty much every time we went in there, it was pretty busy.
Yeah. Vamp for a second, sorry.
Yep. So very much a case of space available in there, but not a lot of it. If at one point when we went in during one of our breaks, we nabbed a table and we deliberately looked at it and was like, okay, this is not an open gaming table, but the next thing that's supposed to be here isn't scheduled to start till 2.
Ooh, got it.
You got it?
Sort of. Well, yes, you'll get it when we were there. So we
I remember, yeah.
So we were going to do a very Merry Murdering Melody, the musical, which was this Catholic girls' school satanic panic stuff using the Hellcats and hockey stick system, which combines a lot of things that I like, which is teen prep school, teen characters, teen shenanigans. I like systems like that, and also occult.
Yep.
So checks a lot of my boxes. Didn't wind up happening.
Yeah, so we got there actually fairly early for whatever reason. Got to the room. People asked us what we were there for. We told them, and I was don't think anybody else is here for that yet. grab a table.
Yep.
Because again, no numbers. Yep. So we just grabbed a kind of like logical table in the corner.
I was dressed in something. I'm trying to remember what I wore that day.
The blue number.
Oh yeah, the blue like kind of fairy number, and I had my peacocks with me.
Yep.
So we sat down. You like blonde wig too. That was cool. And then we got close to.
You were in the blonde wig. I was not. Just to clarify that.
So we got down. It got close to start time, and no one was at our table.
Yep.
2 other people had signed up. I checked, and they were still signed up when we started. Sometimes people drop last minute. Happens. Yep. And the GM was not there.
Yeah, it got to about 5 past, and like nobody had turned up for this.
Yeah. So fortunately, because like this would have been pretty disappointing, and it still is a little bit disappointing. But I happened to catch somebody talking about how the table next to us was Skate Punks, which was another game on my liked list.
Yeah, that was one that we'd been contemplating doing in that time slot.
And I noticed it still had tickets available, and there were a couple seats that were open. So, around 5 past, we
just kind of wandered over. So I was like, hey, our game looks like it's not happening. Our GM hasn't turned up. We were contemplating doing this. Do you mind if we join you?
Yep.
And the GM basically said, no, absolutely. Pull up a chair. We're not that deep into character creation. You should, I'll catch you up. So we did that for about 5 minutes, and then our GM for the first game actually did turn up.
And we tried to go to them and start the game, but they're like, I don't think we're going to have enough people to play. It kind of like, they didn't really explain why they were late or if they knew the other people were going or not. It was just kind of weird.
Yeah, they just kind of sat there for a couple of minutes. And
they didn't seem very interested in running, so we didn't push them on the point.
Yeah, they just seemed kind of sad. Like, I'm wondering if they were intending to run it for like a couple of specific friends. And then like those friends weren't going to be there, and they were just like, what's the point? Yeah,
I don't really know. They seem, I don't know. They didn't seem kind of,
They seemed bummed.
Yeah, which again, it happens. And again, that's probably really disappointing because they sent a message earlier saying that they were excited about running it. And then, again, I hope that they were able to run it eventually, and I will absolutely play in it again. I don't really think it's anyone's fault. I do kind of wish if the GM knew they sent a message, but I don't know if they knew. So Skate Punks then.
Yes, so we pivoted to Skate Punks,
which is another game that was, I think, being developed by the person who was running it.
Yes.
And this is a beta test for it. So.
Yep. So Skate Punks, the principle is basically you are a group of persons of slightly indeterminate age. I'm assuming teens, someone.
You can be teens. I think you could probably be anything. It's a game that, like,
I think we coded it as like young adults.
Yeah, and it's similar to, I would say, some of the polymorph games insofar as character creation and everything else about it. It has a lot of like in jokes and funny bits. It's meant to be kind of comedy punk type of game where you're anti-establishment against the man type of stuff. Does have drugs that are coded into it, which I think is why it's plus 18.
Yep. And his comment was like, if you were running this for a group that where like drugs would be inappropriate, you could swap it out with like sugar or alcohol
or just
whatever.
Anything else.
Like whatever your table is comfortable with, that's what it is. Like he freely admits, like all the drugs have stupid made up names.
Yeah. So the drugs could also be anything in terms of where you are on the level of like comfort with drugs.
Yeah. Which is fine.
Yeah.
He checked with us.
Yeah. And the theming was very silly. But it like works well, and like it was, I think, a fairly immersive theme in terms of character creation and stuff like that. Pretty basic. Another die rolling system where you get stats. My only criticism with any die rolling system is just let people roll like 3 times and take the average for each of their stats, just so somebody doesn't wind up with all like 2s.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is, while this was the classic like go down the list, personally, I prefer if you're going to do the roll your stats thing, I would rather you basically roll them all, write down the numbers, and then you can choose where you want to assign them. Just so you can actually like build a character. Yeah,
so you can have a little bit more rolling character creation and stuff like that.
Again, that's something that I'm not even sure needs to be specifically in the rule book. Like that can well be just a GM at the table
house rule kind
of thing. The other thing you get to do is you get to decide on the nature of your wheels, because as skaters you must logically have wheels,
which is great because you can just pick anything that has wheels.
Yep. Like so, you did one of those like TV trolleys that every school had, that when they wheeled them in, like
the teachers were too tired to teach class, so they just let you watch like documentaries and stuff like that.
Yep. and like it still had the TV on it. My character had a pair of Heelys.
Yep.
With like flashing lights in them. Like somebody was just like, yeah, I'm just got a pocket full of ball bearings, and I just like throw them in front of myself to wheel along on them.
Yep.
There was a lot of really great creativity on display from the table as just to, like how weird methods of transportation we could get.
Yeah. And then the scene was set in a grocery store. We just were punk kids in a grocery store. Eventually fought some the mom skater punk game.
Yep. Yeah, what were they? The bargain moms? Or
yeah. I kept trying to do weird things with the mechanics. The GM said I could do all of them, so that was good.
Yep. So yeah, like, we like the system perfectly fine. Our biggest problem with this game...
consistent, yeah, and I think this is actually a problem we had consistently across a lot of games. It's just we
like to RP.
We like the role-play elements of RP.
And for whatever reason, the tables we were getting this weekend just kind of
didn't seem to want to, yeah.
Like, there was a lot less RP and just a lot more like, okay, my character does this.
Yeah.
Rather than like talking in character to explain what you're going to do and all of that.
I will say Good Society did not have this problem. Like, people clearly showed up at the table really into RP.
Yeah.
But that is a game that is an RP game, and I think it said that in the description.
Yeah.
So.
Where it's the classic case of, rather than doing the, tell me more about this, Mr. NPC character, who's just like, okay, so I talked to the NPC and I asked them this, and it's like, there's not a wrong way to do tabletop RPGs in that regard. Like, if that's what you want to do, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not what, like, we like to get emotionally invested and go deep into the RP and do that kind of stuff. If you're more somebody who likes to just like describe broadly what your character does and then roll dice to find out what happens, fine.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun for me is just being at a table of people who can RP, a bunch of skate punk kids all being in a room together and stuff like that. And we weren't getting a lot of this weekend, particularly. Like, GMs, I think, were good at RPing and NPCs and stuff like that. But I do wish there was just a little bit more RP experience generally at tables.
Yeah. And again, for this game in particular, just there wasn't a lot of NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit more like, you're kind of trying to claim this space, so you need to like go to different parts of it and tag it with your like magic spray cans. Again, perfectly fine setup.
Yeah, and it was very much beta testing the game, which I do think works. Like, I would love a game, and like the world was definitely immersive, and the mechanics made sense to make the world more immersive, which is always what I like in an RPG. Yeah,
like I think the biggest criticism I had for it was just, which was one that he actually commented on himself, was the the player character sheets are based on like a kind of folding book, and they're a little over-designed such that if you print them out grayscale, which is what most people are going to do, it's kind of hard to like read the stuff you actually write on them.
Yeah.
Like, it's a relatively minor complaint that like I'm sure will be fixed before the final version comes out.
But this was very good. I hope this system makes it to light. I would love a game that's a bit more RP heavy in this system, because this would be a very fun. I love it when the mechanics bring the world to life, and this is definitely a system where the mechanics bring the world to life. So
and just let you do a bunch of weird and silly things.
Yeah.
Like one thing that it had was like a chart for like naming the tricks that you do, where it's like, okay, roll one dice, roll two dice. Okay, so I've ended up with the kickflip ghost air smash. Or
like you also roll for like equipment you have at the beginning, but the equipment is just like completely ridiculous things.
Yep.
I think I had a permanent marker and burnt CD or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, I can't even remember what I got.
Somebody got napalm.
And again, like the degree to which the equipment was actually useful was questionable.
Yeah, but you can like make arguments with anything. Like, I flooded the store and used the intercom at one point because we were in a grocery store. Like, it's fun, it's silly, it's a great little mini adventure. So.
Yes. Yeah, and again, I dig the vibe.
Yeah.
Down with the man. So yeah, so thank you very much to that GM for letting us like pivot into that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope whatever went wrong with hockey stick. Was it?
Hellcats and hockey sticks.
Hellcats and hockey sticks. Thank you. I hope that GM still managed to have a decent weekend regardless.
Yeah. So this was a game that lasted about 2 hours, which is about the time slot it needed, which not bad. It's just, and I don't think at a more role-play heavy table you could easily stretch that adventure out to 4 hours. It's just this wasn't a role-play heavy table.
Yeah. So yeah. So after that, we once again had a bit of a break. So we again headed down to the board game library. This was when we snagged a table that was basically just there would be a game on it at 2. It didn't have anything scheduled until then, so dibs.
Yep.
And again, there was not any problem with that. So we played a bit more Wavelength, a couple of other random bits and bobs.
And then we decided to check out the charity auction, which we realized they had this year.
Yes. So the charity auction at this one is interesting. So based on their comments, and I don't 100% know this for sure, but based on their comments, I think this is basically people selling stuff.
Yep.
The con takes a cut of the sale price, and that cut gets donated to charity.
Yes.
So
and there's a couple items that are entirely charity.
Yes, like a donut from last year.
Yes.
Which they said to put in the freezer and they'll sell it again next year.
It's nice to know that charity auctions at cons continue to embrace the weirdness of furry cons, at least in some capacity, for the weirdest of items.
Yeah. But yeah, so our main criticism of this was just you had between 11 and 1 to basically get your stuff into the room for them to auction, and then the auction itself was supposed to start at 1.
It definitely needed an hour between when the items were there and...
I think even half an hour would have been
enough.
Yeah,
anything that was enough, because they were still writing down names and it didn't wind up starting until about 15-20 minutes late.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have just set the cutoff as half an hour before the auction was due to start, just so they had time to finish finagling everything.
Yeah.
But in terms of how this worked, it was pretty simple. You grabbed a paddle, which were all meeples.
Yep.
Yeah, which had a number on it. As long as you had one of those, they would keep track of who bought what. And at the end, you paid in cash.
Yep.
Nice and simple. So we did end up getting a thing.
I think mostly just because we were literally the only people in the room who wanted this.
It went up with a reserve price of $1.
So we had our paddle up, and then no one else put their paddles up after that. Some people did out of pity.
Somebody behind us was like, okay, give it at least 5 for charity. And the company is okay. How much you want for us? Look, for charity, $10.
Yeah, I think I just said 10 just because it's for charity.
Yeah.
The difference between $5 and $10, thankfully for us at this point in life, is not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think it was mostly, so pretty much all of the charity lots were board games to some capacity. There were a couple other things in there, but 90% board games.
Yeah.
A lot of them are being bought up by, I think people who own gaming stores and stuff like that.
Yep, who just want, stock of slightly older stuff that they can probably sell on, which again, fine.
Whereas the thing we bought were clearly used, not shrink back games that I think were so common everyone in the room owned them but us. So
got us a copy of, we mostly bought that lot to get an actual copy of Codenames.
Yeah, because we don't have Codenames proper. We have one of the Codenames Pictures games, just because everyone else we know already owns Codenames, so there's no reason for us to own it.
But we figured we might as well own a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might take that to the next board gaming night or something.
Yeah.
Which God knows when that'll be, because the next Wednesday when it's supposed to be is the
Thanksgiving
yeah, that's
week, not happening.
So,
we'll see if we can maybe squeeze in one more time before the end of the semester.
Yep.
Maybe last week of class. We'll see.
We will figure it out.
Yeah. And cute, fairly well run. Does seem to maybe need a little bit more organization, but it does move at least quickly given the because the system they use is basically just yelling numbers and waiting for people to put paddles down, which is the quickest way to auction anything off.
Yeah, it was pretty speedy.
Yeah. We did have to leave early because we had a game starting at 2.
Yep.
Or games in this case. But they let us pick stuff up later, so.
Yeah, again, nice and simple. Just come back at the at the auction's end to pick up your stuff. Which part of the problem was the auction was supposed to end at 3, and the pickup time was 3 until 4. Yeah, I went down there at 3:30. They were still going.
Yep.
Which they did warn me was probably going to happen.
Yeah, they did say that. I imagine if you just pick up stuff by the end of the day, they're not terribly picky.
So. Probably. It's mostly just to what degree they needed to clear out the space.
Yeah.
So that was perfectly fine. So I just ran that stuff straight back to the car. So we then we snuck out and we headed upstairs for our 2:00 game. And this was the one that we swapped into because last year We played a game called Vampire 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Which is one of our top tier games ever. We really like the GM.
Yep.
And I maintain after this feature, this GM is one of the best comedy GM games I've seen.
Yep.
Like, he knows how to carry comedic scenes through stuff. Like, most comedic games do kind of end after 2 hours just because it kind of goes every place it can go. He knows how to carry the comedy out and get everyone in the table participating at just like a great level.
Yeah.
Like, excellent GM.
Yeah, like last year's Vampire game went to like 4 hours, and again, like the basic principle of that one was this is the Vampire the Masquerade system. This is a very serious system. You're all a bunch of high school kids trying to throw the most kick-ass party possible.
Yes.
And you've just got all the powers that come with like being characters in Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah, like it was a great table, and like he was able to make that very silly premise last 4 hours, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And this time I think it was pretty realistic. He picked one game that lasted 1 hour, one game that lasted about 3, and it worked great.
Yeah. And what was it officially entitled? Like the Power Hour Variety?
Oh, look it up, yeah.
Variety Double Act or something like that. Like it said very clearly, like it's 2 slightly shorter games that he was going to put back to back, and we'd play both. Yeah.
Yeah, the first game was an art-inspired game.
Yep. Where the basic principle was we were all going to find meaning in modern art. So we basically just worked together to randomly roll a bunch of really stupid-sounding modern art, and then we had to talk to each other to establish the meaning, which basically means we had to talk complete bollocks.
And he did run in the thing that's meant to be a love letter to modern art, as well as like a criticism of it, which I do think I got from the game.
So do I.
Like, it's definitely something that is making fun of the absurdity of modern art, but at the same time, it's encouraging you to like think about it and think about what it might actually be saying.
Yeah. And
sometimes that's fun. Like,
it is. And again, like, we got a pretty good table for this. So this was he's another person who's in a gaming group, and
he's in We Hate Bards.
We Hate Bards. Yeah. So yeah, like initially, you and I were the only people there. And one of the other people in his gaming group was just like, "Hey, if you need me to jump in, I'm available." And he did actually, like sit down with us. And then the other 2 people who had tickets turned up, yeah, but he stayed.
Yeah, which 5 is great for a game table. So like 5 is the magic number for most game tables. And that group I think was pretty well like. Everyone at the table did a great job of like making sure everyone else at the table got a chance to talk, and like throwing moments to other characters. And they were just great. They knew what they were here for and played very well.
Yeah, so. We were all there just to make each other laugh. I completely broke the GM at one point where I managed to, like, I went on this long speech about, like, the descent of man and the fall and the rise and, like, civilization, epoch stuff, and then managed to link it back to 40K.
Yeah, that broke the GM.
That broke the GM.
I'm glad you got a GM breaking moment. I normally get those. I'm glad that you got one.
That was fun. Like, he needed a second after that because I don't think he saw that coming. In a way that was just that I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so it was Indie Power Hour double feature.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the first one is a game about modern art.
Yep.
Called Who Gives a Flying F About Modern Art? A System.
Yep. Which again, about an hour was the right length of time for that game.
Yeah, it was cute. You talked about modern art through a museum. You basically rolled the different paintings just by random D8 die.
Yep.
D6s. And then you just D6s, and then you just talked about it and tried to find meaning in like any meaning you said was great, basically.
Yep. Yeah, so I think we generated 9 paintings in sets of 3 sets of 3.
Yeah,
basically.
You talked about like the relationships between them and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was
what each painting meant.
It was cute. It's definitely a game that you can't probably play for more than an hour, but it's definitely very cute and very silly. So.
Yeah, like again, pairing it up with the second game was a good call, just because like they had similar vibes while being very different from one another.
Yeah. Both of them are about like describing stuff.
Yeah.
So the second was Jump the Shark, the RPG. So.
Yeah. Where the principle is basically you are all like writers and or actors on a TV show.
Yeah.
The TV show was planned for 2 seasons. Those 2 seasons went really well. Everything was great. You've just been picked up for a lot more seasons.
By a new streaming service.
Yep. And you have like 3 months to knock out a season.
And then
Go.
basically just like you roll what random episodes are. The genre doesn't make sense. The characters don't make sense half the time, and you're just describing each episode in detail.
Yeah, like everybody's character arc ended at the end of season 2, and now you're all like, what the hell do we do with the characters now?
Yeah.
Like, the entire point is to just make a TV show that starts good and gets steadily worse.
Yeah. My only, again, criticism with this, and it's like barely a criticism, was everything was pretty much describing the TV show, no acting out scenes from the TV show, and I wish we had gotten a couple opportunities to like act out a scene from the TV show, just because it would have been hilarious.
It would.
But other than that, it was great. Everyone came up with different ideas for their characters / random actors. There was a great chemistry at the table. It was a ton of fun.
It was great. Like, again, we got a lot of like really good jokes in. Like, I adore the fact that I deliberately made my actor was just me.
Mm-hmm.
The character he was playing on the show was blatantly Hispanic, and it was just a running gag that like they really should have cast a Hispanic actor for this role.
Yep.
You know, like there's definitely been complaints about it, right down to the fact that my identical twin brother was played by Pedro Pascal, who we could only afford to be in one episode.
Yeah.
You know, like it was that kind of like joking and humor that everybody at that table got the assignment.
Yeah, it was great. And because of it, the show or the prompt has you have a bunch of loose ends for how many seasons you last. Like you could last up to 10 seasons. I don't think I was asking the GM in between. I think we were on break about if anyone's lasted that long, and he was like, "No, not even close." And I think he mentioned at the end we got close to the furthest anyone had gotten.
Yeah,
we had 6 seasons.
We got 6 seasons, and then I suspect because we then got like a TV movie, 1 episode to wrap everything up.
Yeah.
Which me and the person across the table from me were clearly on the same wavelength because we kept referencing the same sci-fi shows in reference to like what was going on. So I was like, this is our Peacekeeper Wars.
Yep.
I just was like, I was just thinking that.
Well, like one of the mechanics is that you have to end every episode with a loose end. Then you somehow have to like at the end of all these like figure out like what they were doing.
Yeah. Part of the wrap-up movie you get at the end or the last episode is you have to wrap up every loose end.
Yeah, some of which we had, of course, completely forgotten because we came up with them 2 hours ago.
Yep.
Like, I completely forgotten that one of the characters had to tell the truth at random moments.
Yep. Which, again, like, the entire joke of this is that, it's based on TV shows that have gone on for too damn long, and the writers themselves have kind of forgotten their own premise. Like, and it does a really good job of replicating that concept.
Also, bizarrely, the second game this weekend where I was playing a romantic character who like was going after one character, then ended up with another.
Yep.
For equally comedic effect.
Yep. Well, my character died.
Yep. So I had to like be married off to like the other person in my love triangle.
Yep.
Who I had basically no romantic interactions with for 3 seasons.
Yeah. And again, at that point, we were just like, the How I Met Your Mother thing, where like the writers have very clearly moved away from these two actually ending up together, and yet, for whatever reason, in the last episode, they do. So, yeah.
Also, there was a swan that attacked people.
Yep. I think the swan ended up higher paid than the rest of us anyway.
Yeah, the swan was very popular.
Yeah. Guess who introduced the swan?
I did. Well, like, everyone was like, there was an episode where I had to get a new pet.
Yep.
And the pet would like everyone came up with a different idea for a pet, and because we were, of course, in a random sci-fi genre, my solution was a chimera shape-shifting pet that just kept shifting between the animals.
Yep.
And the animal I added was a swan, and the other animals that people added were like animals you could actually train. You cannot train a swan.
You cannot, in fact, train a swan.
So
They're
it was
assholes.
just biting everyone on set.
Yep. One actor got an arm broken.
Yep.
Again, like, everybody understood the assignment was to be as silly as possible, right? Right down to the fact that, like, the episodes that was all about, like, evil identical twins, that, like, everybody, because one of the mechanics is you roll 4 die.
Yep.
And there are 3 episodes a season.
Yep.
You roll 4 die, and, like, the higher the number that you you roll, the more of the episode you're in. So you basically decide, okay, is this an episode I want to be in a lot of? I'm going to put my 9 in.
Yeah.
Yep.
For whatever reason, all of us rolled
You literally all put 10s.
For the identical twin episode, even though you were the only character who hadn't established identical twin at this point in time.
At which point I put in a 2 because it was the funniest possible thing I could do. And I made it because in the previous episode we'd all been in Hawaii, and I was just like, yeah, my actor missed the flight back. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. So yeah, this game is bonkers. Everyone at the table stood the assignment, and I will say these were great table mates. Everyone did a great job of making sure that like people who were a little bit quieter got moments to contribute, and did cool stuff too.
Yeah, there's a lot of good like checking in with each other and all that. Like, this was just a really good table, and I really like this GM.
I love this GM. They do a great job of facilitating stuff like this and being able to carry comedy as long as they do. Yeah. They're just great at it.
They are.
I was almost mad that we couldn't play another game with them.
Yeah,
so.
like part of the problem is like we might have been almost tempted to do Vampire 2 Electric Boogaloo again this year, but we know
you can't re-replicate
can't
the magic.
That.
Like that was a great table with a great GM, and this is just one of those things we've talked about. Like the epic games, our Scooby Dreads, our Vampire 2 Electric Boogaloo's. Part of that's a great GM. Great GMs do a lot of work and deserve to be respected.
Yeah.
But part of that is just that table magic that at cons you can only get when a group of like-minded strangers come together in an amazing way.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no way to predict
what
the hell is. You have no way of predicting which games it's going to happen with.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like, good con games are still good con games. They're just different from the incredible con games.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind that, like, we are, like, obviously people who love the RP experience, and we like it when the rules and the RP experience and the story all mesh together to create the synergistic RP experience, whereas other people don't care as much about that.
Yeah,
so.
Some people prefer to play RPGs like they're a point-and-click adventure, which, again, if that's what's fun for you, great. You know, it's just... To get a perfect situation, you need to have people who mesh. And at cons, you're never quite sure if you're going to.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean if you don't mesh with somebody, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad RP player. You don't like them or anything. It just means you don't have that immediate table chemistry that's just impossible to replicate. It's like dating chemistry.
Yeah.
I like plenty of people, but I can't date most people. Yeah.
So this was a lot of fun. Like, this was probably my favorite game of the weekend. Was Jump the Shark, I think. Probably.
It's interesting. It was definitely my favorite, I don't know, in terms of just, like, table experience, but I did like some of the other stuff we did, too.
So, next up, again, a little bit of a break.
We didn't actually have this much of a break.
Actually, we didn't, because the next game started at 6.
And this ended at, like, 5:30 and was scheduled to end at 6. So we actually went upstairs pretty quickly after a quick bathroom break for Lumber Jills. Something I was very interested in. Like, this was also a last-minute switch to something that I think we were doing just because this looked cool in terms of it being a weird romantic system about lumberjacks in Scotland in World War I. Two. I was confused about which war it was. Anyway.
Specifically, it's about the Women's Auxiliary Lumber Corps or whatever it was, which was a real thing. Because again, like during World War II in the UK, a lot of men getting conscripted and or signing up to... actually, I don't think we did... Description. I genuinely can't remember. But a lot of men getting signed up to go fight in the war. A lot of jobs that needed doing, suddenly having nobody to do it. So a lot of women suddenly having to do those jobs. And lumber was very, very important during the war. Like, you needed it for a lot of stuff. So they basically hired a whole bunch of women to become lumberjacks. They were, I think they were historically known as the Lumberjills.
Yeah. Small indie developer, technically a LARP because it did have some like physical mechanics. I will say a couple things that I was a bit confused about that I wish were a bit more developed in the description. I did tell the GM this, was just basically what the elements of romance were, how heteronormative it was, and if there was physical touching. I think are just things that you should kind of put in the description just so people know. Because you were a bit worried if you were even be allowed to play this.
Yes, because again, like it was very clear that this was a femme-focused game, and I am not femme presenting. I'm depressingly straight, white, and male.
And I also will admit I initially thought this was going to be about lumberjills dating other lumberjills. I was definitely more heteronormative than that.
Yeah.
And the GM did say, and it's written into the rules, that like they wanted this to be historical about like the actual time period when gayness was obviously still happening, but less above ground.
Yeah.
So they wanted it to be more heteronormative-esque, but also said that you could just gender bend any of the romance options in it.
There were also like a full set of female love interests.
Yes. They just chose to keep it male to just kind of keep the more historical accuracy, which I think was a choice, which was fine.
Yeah.
So this is interesting to describe. It's a very interesting system, and one that I think was done about as well as it possibly could have been at a con of this size with strangers. So.
Yes. So the basic system is you select one of the lumberjills. There were, I think, 5 available.
Yeah, 5 available. There were 4 spots for this game, plus the GM was playing a role, which I think was smart because you do kind of need a GM to kind of. This is very much an intense romance experience with other players, so having the GM play, I think, as a facilitator also helps. There is a kissing mechanic. It does not involve actual kissing.
Yes. So it was basically split into like scenes between the Jills and scenes between the Jills and their potential romantic partners.
Yes.
Which were set. So the scenes between the Jills were set like during their workday. So you kind of like there's a mechanic where you like mime sawing, and then the romantic scenes were at like community dances. So you mime dancing effectively while you're talking.
So for the like lumber scenes where you mime sawing, you basically like move your bodies back and forth, putting weight on one another.
While kind of like holding hands.
Yes.
Perfectly. Like it's a cute mechanic. I'm not. The actual like quote unquote LARP aspects and the physical stuff, I'm not sure are strictly necessary.
No, I think it honestly might work a little bit better without those, just because when you're physically touching somebody, it actually makes it harder to kind of like actually like act because it's like more intimate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like with the right group, I think it would be fine. It's a little awkward for a con game.
Yeah, it's like, a little bit awkward because you're obviously touching people you've never touched before, which is not bad. I felt comfortable the entire time, but because you are touching people, it makes the like, if you're saying very like sexy or romantic things to that person, that feels a lot more real than if you're not touching them with a stranger. Which
is part of the reason that like you got a lot of praise for your portrayal of one of the suitors, and I think at least in part it's because that was one of my potential suitors, and you and I are just incredibly comfortable role playing with each other at this point.
Like it was a bit unfair. Like our characters, like whenever because you play multiple characters, so you play a Jill, and then you typically play a couple love interests, one like love interest per, because everyone chooses 3 love interests, and there's other people at the table, so you play a different love interest. And generally, our characters, whenever it was like my character and your love interest or your character, like had by far the most chemistry. Just because we weren't strangers, we were married, and like. One of the characters I played was kind of the Don Juan type, which you purposely chose, and I am so glad they gave to me because I was the only one at the table who could have pulled off like flirting with you with that level of intensity.
Yes. Anybody else would have been awkward. With you, it was kind of fun. Yeah,
you were blushing at one point though. The only kiss that happened, there is a kissing mechanic, but it's just basically you putting a hand on another hand. Yeah. And you do have to ask for consent, obviously, to do it. So.
Yes, you're like clasp hands.
Yes. Which I think I was to get this game, I probably would just remove the like LARP mechanic aspect. It's a cute idea, I think, with how intense some of the romance is, because you're supposed to flirt with people. Yeah. The additional physical touch with people who don't know each other, I think, is a little bit too much.
Yeah, like again, if you're playing this with the right group, I think the physical touch aspect is completely fine. Yeah. It's just it's a bit awkward at the con, especially if you're. Might have been better if this room had a seminar room rather than just one of the standard rooms, because once we started getting crosstalk, it definitely like I was having trouble hearing people at a couple of points.
Yeah, it's hard to hear people that were a little bit softer because they were talking softer, and you're also doing a physical activity that looks weird in front of a group of people. And that could have made people a little bit embarrassed. I wasn't embarrassed really, but
again, you were already in a ball gown.
Yeah, I was like, people are staring at me all the time anyway. I'm kind of used to it.
Yep.
But I did get a lot of praise for my character work this game, which I was proud of. So.
And you deserved it.
Thank you. And not just with you.
Oh, no. And again, like I think I was also doing a fairly good job.
Like, I will admit I really enjoyed this, and I was also proud because the GM obviously has experience doing this. The other person we were at the table with was I don't want to say old because that is, of course, rude, but a person, feminine presenting, who was older than us, who had just gotten into RP experiences. And this was a really intense one to, like, just leap into if you were new to the world of RP. And she did great.
She did. Like, she did turn up to the table a couple of minutes late because they were doing their raffle at 6.
Yeah.
Which she apologized for.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Man, she did great. I'm glad that she was able to experience it, and I really hope she had fun. So and I also had fun with the game. So like I really did like this. I do think I would probably get this because I do want to play it again. And like I think I would just kind of remove the LARP-esque elements to make it more playable in a con space if we're going to use it. But you want to do this and just play all the suitors, so
hey, if you want to run this, I will happily be literally every man.
Yep.
Like, if you want to run this for an entirely femme-presenting table, I am quite prepared to do that.
Yes. On some side, I do think it would work to have different people be the suitors a little bit, particularly, you know, people are allowed to have gender preferences in who they're dating, and sometimes I feel like it can be a bit more immersive to people if they are straight to have a man playing a man in that circumstance, just to make the experience more immersive. So, because one person did comment that they wanted you to play the wild one. So, I'm like, yeah, I want him to do that too. He kind of sucks at it though.
Harsh.
Is it wrong?
I can get myself into that headspace. It just takes me a little while.
Longer than it would take me. So,
well,
and
yeah.
I was doing it to you. I do want to emphasize.
Exactly. Like I could
else.
do it to you without any problem.
Really?
Yes.
I love you.
I love you too. Honestly.
For the record, this is our normal like relationship standard.
Yeah,
like, we're not fighting.
This is banter.
This is just what we do.
Yeah. Like, again, this is normal.
So this was cute. Also ended a little bit early, but I think it worked for what it was.
Yep.
The GM did admit they kind of wrapped it up a bit early. I think they were also just annoyed because somebody interrupted our table conversation at one point in a way that was very, very rude, and I have no problems calling this person out.
Yeah,
like,
I do think we do need to talk about, like...
table etiquette?
Yes.
Like, I will emphasize a lot of the time, because we had a player at a game last weekend who we didn't really mesh with at the table. And I try to be really careful about talking about that person because I think that was a circumstance where we just didn't mesh with that person. And I didn't want the people to think that they were a bad person. This is not a situation that is like that.
Yeah, this person was just kind of a dick.
Yeah, this person was extremely rude. And I have no problem saying that.
Yeah.
And they were sexist.
Yep.
Like, very obviously.
Yeah. So at about the 8 o'clock mark, and so we were 2 hours deep into a game that was scheduled for 4 hours. Fine. Somebody basically came over to our table and asked us if we were wrapping up soon because, like, he was supposed to be running a game in that room. At 8.
We were in the middle of an RP circumstance. Like, I didn't even notice this person was at our table because I was RPing with the, in this case, GM across the table. Like, at this time period, he interrupted us mid-conversation as we were talking to talk to her specifically.
Yep.
The only female GM in the room.
Yep. About
when she was in the game. He did not talk to any other tables. He talked to her.
Yep.
In a very rude manner.
Yes. It had the vibe of, I'm pretty sure this should be my table, get out. You don't belong here. Which, we had, again, it would have been less of a problem if the tables were numbered. And again, tables should be numbered. But it says something that ours was the table he came to, i.e. the one with all the femme-presenting people.
And it's worth mentioning, and I know this because he mentioned that he was supposed to be at table 4. If the tables were numbered, there was no way the table we were at, which was at the end of the room, would have been 4.
Yeah, no, theoretically, we were table 5.
Yeah. Because, again, if you were going to label the table in any iteration, we would have either been 1 or 5. Because we're at the end of the room.
Yep. And it really did feel like he went specifically for the female presenting GM. Because
he didn't talk to anyone else in the room. He just talked to us while we were in the middle of a conversation.
Yep.
And then seemed to like almost demand that we move when we were a scheduled game. There's a possibility that somebody else in that room wasn't a scheduled game, but really just a group of friends playing a pickup game.
Yep. We did not ask or check because that's with the best one of the world, not our goddamn problem.
It's not our goddamn business or problem. Like, and if you had that problem, what you should do is talk to the con staff about the fact that there's not an available table in your room.
Yep.
Not bother an individual group of people and be annoyed. Like, his tone was clearly annoyed. And like, regardless of whether or not he was annoyed at us.
I'm gonna be honest, it read like he was angry that we were in his space.
Yeah, which we weren't.
Nope.
Like, my only thing I could possibly conceive of that doesn't make this sexist would have been like, maybe because of how the game looked, he thought we were playing a board game as opposed to an RPG game. But even if that's the case, that's still not okay. Because the game that we looked at had like, it didn't have like character sheets in the same way. It had cards, but it was still a game that we were playing, and obviously was entitled to be there at that particular time pot. And he didn't even wait until we were done doing our scene to interrupt us.
Yeah. So if you're that person, screw you.
Yeah.
If you're anybody else, don't do that.
I think it helped that pretty much all of us at the table were giving us that like glare that I sometimes get of just like, really, dude?
Yeah.
This is not okay.
And like, I basically did my best to just kind of leap in and be the, no, we're here for another 2 hours. This is not, we are table D5 or whatever it was, not D4.
Yeah.
And he seemed like really confused by the fact I spoke up. Like, I'm I'm wondering if he didn't realize I was a guy from the back, because, like, again, he came in.
Yeah.
I was sitting with my back to the rest of the room, just because of how the table worked.
So yeah, that's not okay. For the record, if you are at a con, don't do that, and specifically don't target a group of women blatantly to do that. And
yeah, that is what we refer to in the business as a dick move.
Yeah, not okay. Like 100% not okay. I will say, and I did comment to the GM about this, as a woman, it is actually useful to see that experience happen to other women. So I realize it's not because like I'm a freak and it's just because of my gender construction, because I've had moments like that. I'm sure if you were femme presenting, you have also had moments like this. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Don't be part of the problem.
Yeah. So yeah.
But other than that, the game was good, and it was actually kind of cathartic to like vent about that with some people. And then we hopped back into our PC, and that was great.
Yep.
I'm like, I am really glad we played this.
Yeah, so am I.
Like, I was interested to see how you would view it, because I know it's like more of a thing that I would like than you. But
again, it was definitely more your vibe than mine.
Also, what road are we on?
The one that Google told me to go on.
Okay, this does not look like the way we went, so.
I think it's scooching us around a traffic accident.
Okay. Anyway, that was that game.
Yep.
So you want to move on to Sunday?
Yes. So at that point, went back to the Airbnb, swung by Tasties again. Excellent. When are we going back to Michigan?
Probably not till February.
Dang it. It's fine. Like, again, I really quite like this burger place, but I couldn't eat there regularly. Like, it's a nice thing to... It's a nice bonus treat when we come up here for a con, basically. Yeah, stream of traffic coming this way. I think Google is trying to get us to avoid a traffic accident. So,
but if you ate at the burger place every day, you probably gain a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Like, their food looks intense enough to be all your calories for the day.
Oh god, yeah. Like, especially if you get a burger, some fries, and a side. Like, so yeah. So then got up, packed up the car, all that.
Grab the dog.
Clearing out the Airbnb kind of stuff. Like,
I wore my new dress that actually is a separate costume, or has separate skirt and top, so, it looks like one dress.
Yep. So you get to walk around the con in a ball gown, and then when we were going home, you can just pull the lower skirt off.
Yep.
And it's a, midi dress?
Yeah. I definitely will admit I've been more grumpy this weekend, just for, the fun feminine health reasons. So I was a little bit grumpy that morning. But we got in the car, we got there.
Yep.
And we got to the Monty Python game.
Yes.
Which is a system I've seen at a few cons. I've never had the opportunity to play it. I will say I liked it quite a bit.
Again, you were a little concerned you weren't going to be able to do Python-esque humor.
Turns out I'm good at Python-esque humor.
You really are.
I got so many kudos from the GM. So.
Yeah. Well, so this system is basically, there's a lot of Python puns in it.
Yes.
Right off the get-go. Like, the people who wrote this are clearly massive Python fans, but it's got a really interesting mechanic whereby your GM is not actually the person running the game. It's the head of light entertainment, or the whole, which again, Python reference. And your GM is basically playing the whole.
Yep. And
the whole can change depending on shenanigans that happen throughout the course of the game.
Yep. It actually does have a lot of stat blocks, though. I'm surprised about how involved the stats were.
Yeah, a bunch of different skills, and the interesting thing is how you are on the skill chart is so you can be quite naughty.
Yep.
Which basically means you're not very good at being chased. The official stat is chased. But if you are quite chased, you're kind of on the other side of that, and it's so it's serious to silly is basically the logic. And the more serious you are, the bigger the die you're rolling for it. And if you have no specific skill in it, you're rolling a D4, and on the high end, you could be rolling a D20. So it's also a game that uses D16, D14, 16, and 18, which are not common die. So you do kind of need your own. Yeah, it does come with its own specific set of die to be used, which is useful. But yeah. So what was the? So yeah. So again, vaguely medieval themed in, you know, like that.
It's meant to be Monty Python. There's a lot of references to Monty Python throughout it. You're on a vaguely medieval themed adventure, but in the Python world, basically.
Yeah, very, very Holy Grail coded in that regard.
And characters are basically what you want them to be. Like, they're all like bits or bit characters from Monty Python. It comes with its own coconuts. So.
Yep. Which also, hilariously, the GM was using those as the X card for this game.
Yeah. Which, by the way, this was like the one game this weekend where GM asked about phobias. I didn't mention like my teeth phobia that I have because I'm like, that's not going to come up this game. And of course it did somehow.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, when I picked up the coconuts and tapped them to X card, you know, he paused the game and was like, okay, what's the issue? And we basically said, that's going to be a problem. And he said, okay, give me a second. That was intended to be a moderately important thing, you know, and we suggested, well, maybe because it was a dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like, okay, well, rather than retrieving that thing from the dragon, how about we go for scales instead? Okay, cool. I can work with that. You know, and he just rejiggered some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and that wasn't even in the main adventure. That was because we finished the main adventure too early.
Yeah, I'm unclear how much riffing he was having to do because we fairly blew through the plot, as 'twere.
Well, like part of it, like I think the main thing was just there were only 3 players at this table. It was us plus one other person who was the, just coincidentally, the partner of the GM who did the double feature game we played. Yes. So we complimented him again as being the very good GM, and she was a really good player too.
She was. Yeah, so I went with the Noble Knight, who of course got given a very stupid name. Yes, I saw the Christmas House.
Yeah.
You went with the prince or the noble character.
It was noble. I just gender flipped it to be a princess.
Yeah.
And again, my goal with this, and I think this should be your goal if you're playing this game, is just like, what character can I make the funniest?
Yep. So yes, you played Princess Swallows.
Yes.
Of the She Dynasty.
Yes, of the She Swallows dynasty. I got a lot of jokes out of that.
Yeah, you did.
I also named your character.
Yeah, you did. Yes, Sir Bunbury.
Sir Bunbury.
Fartlepot, I believe.
Yeah, Sir Bunbury Fartlepot.
Yeah, and then our surf companion, who was Joe Average.
Yep. Whose name I kept forgetting purposely through the entire first half of the adventure.
Yes, you kept referring to them as different generic first names.
Yes.
Which again, like, got a good laugh.
Mm-hmm. Then eventually they did something to earn of like me learning their name.
Yep. Which was gain some actual power because one of the interesting thing about the system is every character has a, was it super serious ability or something like it? It's called something like that, which is like a thing where they roll a d30. Again, this game uses some weird dice, and depending on what you roll, something will happen. So, Joe Average, as the peasant underclass who's who's mostly just the filth shoveler, rolled his and started a peasant revolution because they rolled really high. Meanwhile, later on, when Sir Bunbury went to fight the dragon, he charged gloriously at it after it asked us to join it for tea. Rolled a 6, which was exactly what I wanted to happen because if you roll low on that ability, it does absolutely nothing. The image of him like gloriously charging the dragon and just like bonking completely ineffectively against it while utterly convinced he's winning was the funniest thing I could do at that moment. I couldn't do anything else.
He let you roll again. He was just like, no, this is what I'm doing.
Again, so the interesting thing about those abilities is depending on what you roll also determines when you can use it again.
Yeah.
So if you roll well, you can't use it again until next session. Like mine, among other things, had stuff like if I rolled the lowest tier on it, I could use it again once I had rescued a damsel, bracket to be the gender. Yeah.
The GM didn't admit that they put in a lot of because they actually typed most of this up and created a lot of it. They put in like a lot of like more like gender like affirming stuff in there, which I really appreciated. And they were fine with less gender flipping the characters because in case you haven't played Monty Python, it's pretty much all men. So.
Yeah.
Or seen it. I feel like I got Python-esque humor. I got a lot of like they have merits and demerits, which are basically like advantage and disadvantage coins. A lot of systems have these, so they just kind of give stuff out for like good RP or too good RP. Like it's both just for good RP.
Yeah,
like you really just want to get both. I got the most, I think, of anyone at the table.
I think you did.
The
other person also got quite a few.
Merits,
I'm genuinely not sure which of you had more. I think it was probably you, but I don't think it was
your
quite
RP
much.
was also very good. It's just you're British, which weirdly in this game put you at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because you're just expected to be good at it.
Yep. But again, like, it was a lot of fun. It was very, very silly.
It was very silly. We went. I think the plot just went kind of quickly, just because it's only a 3-person table, so you're not going to be bogged down with as much shenanigans. Though I did start the game by having the Joe Average just hit you in the head with a shovel.
Well, yeah, we had to test out to make sure that my helmet was effective.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very silly game.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of fun. Definitely, you know, the GM freely admitted it was only like the second time he'd run it.
Yeah, so you did have to look some stuff up sometimes, but that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Like, the only way you're going to learn how to run a game is by running the game.
Yeah, like, again, it's one of those things that, like, I would rather have a GM who is enthusiastic, who really loves, you know, the material, and, you know, needs to look at rules occasionally and check stuff because they've not done it before, than somebody who's played a system to death but also kind of doesn't want to be there.
Yeah. And I will admit, I was surprised about, like, how well the mechanics worked. Like, it worked well as a system. It was a lot more intricate than I was expecting it to be, but, like, I could tell thought went into all of it. So
yeah,
like, for instance, even like very basic stuff, like the Joe Average character, who was a peasant, had lower start blocks than we did, but they were also immune to a bunch of shit that we, who were both noble characters and had like full health to start with, weren't immune to.
Yep.
So it evened out.
Yep.
Which is actually a very smart game design decision that I wouldn't expect from people designing a Marty Python game.
Yeah, like, it's weirdly well designed.
Yeah.
Like, it's extremely stupid, but it
is stupid, and but it comes with its own dice, and like, it's a very good, like, adventure-based system.
Yeah, like, we had fun.
It is somewhat dependent on how well the players know Monty Python and how to play in a Python-esque world, but
again, at the end of the day, as long as you're doing slightly silly non sequiturs, sometimes it works out great.
It does.
You know, the GM and I bonded over the fact that, weirdly, in the past, we'd both made Paladins of Joy. We took it in different directions after that, but you know, I
maintain the Paladin of Joy is popular. I know a lot of people who've made Paladins of Joy.
It's a good character concept.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you want a neutral good paladin, because, Jesus Christ, playing lawful good paladins is annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty.
Fountains lit up.
Yep.
And changes colors. That's cool.
Yep. Yeah, for the record, we're back on the 270 east in like 2 miles.
Yay.
So yeah, like, I had a lot of fun with this. This was, you know, quirky and silly and ridiculous in all the ways I wanted. Like, once that GM has done it like 2 or 3 more times, enough to, like, you know, memorize it a little better, I think he'll be absolutely fantastic running it.
This was a great table.
Yeah. Also, so as I mentioned, like, the GM is playing the hole, and it's entirely possible that the hole might get replaced partway through the game. He planned for it to happen once. It happened twice.
Yep.
Mostly because of the dice gods just laughing at him.
Yeah, he was like, apparently you have to roll every time you give somebody a demerit, because people write angry letters into the host if they give people too many demerits. And I was making puns. So he was giving me a demerit for making puns.
Yep.
Or sex jokes. I made a lot of sex jokes.
You made
like
a
lot.
At one point, he was like, okay, so they're going to go around the back? No. I just pointed at you. He was like, I've got the demerit ready.
Yeah.
You know, because at that point, he knew what you were like.
Yeah. You have to live with this.
Yeah, I do. Luckily for you, I love you.
Yep.
But yeah, so he was commenting on, like, so he rolled it. Okay, so for this to happen, this only happens on exactly a 29. So I rolled a 29, so pulls that one, you know, the whole.
Yeah.
You know,
at this point, I think, because after that, he also, like, somebody rolled to, because we just had to, like, capture somebody's body. So, like, the Joe Average just was like, I'm just going to go and take the body. And he's like, okay, roll luck. Which, somehow, like, you know, failed at, because he crit failed at that. And we're just like, you have a GM screen.
You can't just lie to us.
Like, if you want to prolong the story. He's like, no, I have to be on.
And then we changed, and then again, that hole got replaced. I'm pretty sure he started lying to us about his rolls at that point.
Yeah.
Because that's what that hole would do.
Yep.
Good job. And yeah, like, to the point where the GM screen, like, has a guy sitting in a suit on the front of it as a picture, but with no head.
Yep.
And it comes with, like, interchangeable heads that are different Monty Python characters that you fit into the screen to show who the current hole is.
Yeah, like, as a game, like, package, this is incredibly well designed.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, like surprisingly well thought out for a game this stupid. Like I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
So yeah. So at that point, that ended what, like
And it ended about 11:30.
11:30ish.
Yeah.
Which again, like that's partly on us for blowing through the plot as fast as we did. Like as he said, you're getting at least 2.5 hours out of this. Because again, was it a 4-hour time slot?
It was a 4-hour time slot, but this was something for which if I think we had a 5-person table, like it was just a few more shenanigans, it could be. I think that would have made up the time.
Yeah, there would have been a lot more distractions.
Yeah,
I think.
whereas this is a 3-person table, so I'm like half this game is distractions anyway. So
yeah. Yeah, bet the old how's your father?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, we were throwing a lot of Python references at each other.
Yeah. So you got food, and then I think I realized as you were getting food, just from the food stalls, that there was a game I couldn't sign up for that started at noon because this was scheduled to go to 1.
Yep.
And this was a game I was interested in but couldn't sign up for. But I realized we had just made, after you got food, the potential time slots that we could just go to the table and ask if we could join.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that.
We did that. So we kind of hurried upstairs.
Yep.
And got to the table and basically said, "Hey, we noticed you have slots open. Do you mind if we join you?"
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Yeah, absolutely fine." And one person at that table asked if we could keep Emma at the other side of the table from her because she had allergies. And
yes, we tried to be really respectful about that. I did ask her multiple times if she would prefer us not to play in this game because of her allergies. And she said no multiple times. So
yeah, she was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Yep. We're just at Columbus, in case you hadn't noticed.
And she was also very nice. So
yeah. So yeah. So what was this game? Because I've forgotten. Also, we joined this at the last minute. So,
yeah. Let me find my phone. It got kicked by our dog. So
yeah. So yeah, this was an interesting system. I'm sure we played with this GM something before, but I don't.
Are you sure? They do sound like a very good GM, but I don't remember what we would have played with them at before.
I feel like I recognize them.
I do too, but they also look very similar to a lot of other GMs. No offense.
Yeah, that's fair. One of the other players also looked real familiar.
They also look like a lot of other people. No offense.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot of white men. There's a lot of people who are older and have white hair and beards. That's a lot of people at cons.
Fair.
I'm just saying it's a little bit hard to know. We might have, but we did try to talk to them. We couldn't figure anything out. So
yeah, this is true.
Let me see if I can find it. Almost there.
Ars Magica or something like
that. Yes. I do want to look it up because I did really like this system.
So the basic premise of the system is you're all a bunch of wizards. Or mages, or I think it's magus is the term they use in this particular game. But frequently, if you're playing something like D&D, yes, there's different types of magic users, but ultimately they all kind of work in sort of the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You roll a die and a spell happens and you have a set list of spells. This game, magic is very much the focus.
Yep. It's focused on magic. It's about being spellcasters. Everyone's a spellcaster.
Yep.
And the point is learning and studying magic. It's a lot more involved than D&D, and you can see the thoughts in the particular cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
And in particular,
so it's Ars Magica.
Ars Magica, thank you.
The Weekly Dispatch. So.
Yes. So the theming of this one was basically you are a bunch of wizards, magus, magi, whatever. Who work for a tabloid newspaper.
Yes.
In 1974?
Yes.
70-something.
Yeah. And from what I can tell, and this is just based on the description, Ars Magica as a system is a system that I think that GM is modernized because it's an older system that I think he house ruled and developed rules for. Which is cool.
Which is really cool. This is a very interesting system.
And very intricately and well-designed system, too.
Yeah. I gave him one of his cards. If you're listening, send us information. We want to buy a copy.
Yeah, anything you have homebrewed of this, we will buy off you for a reasonable price. Yep. That is fair. Don't tell the publisher we're doing that though, because that's probably wrong. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's one of those things that magic is usually a side thing in most RPGs. Even a game that's nominally focused on magical characters. the magic is usually, like, you'll have a spell list. You can, like, cast various specific things. Everybody loves Fireball.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this system is hyper focused on giving you so many options with magic.
Oh, sweet! He has a page that has the system on it that you can just use.
Phenomenal.
It was linked on the description. So yeah.
Excellent. We're taking a look at that.
Yes.
But yeah, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, and like right down to the fact that it basically says like, okay, if you want to, do a spell that's not in your spell book, it's not a thing you know specifically how to do. Like, there's rules related to, okay, so it's going to be kind of, you're trying to do this sort of thing with this sort of element, so it's going to use those two things. If you have a similar spell that's sort of similar but not quite the same, then you can get a bonus to the roll, and like, there's just a lot of intricacies to how the magic works, and it does make it a little finicky and complicated at times, but I think with a bit of practice,
everyone I think was getting the hang of it by the end of it.
Yeah.
So. And it is a more complicated system, but it's a system that makes the magic of the world feel immersive. It's like magical realism. You're in the modern day. You have to be careful about what you do and how you do it. But it's simpler than Vampire the Masquerade by far. And I do prefer it much to Vampire the Masquerade. And it feels like this immersive, real, love letter to magic that I've been looking for this as a system for a very long time. That wasn't either just D&D or reskinned Harry Potter type stuff. This feels real and unique, and I love this as a system. This is somebody who's a magic user of if I'm ever in an RPG and magic is an option, I'm picking it type of person. A system that's a love letter to magic and what magic can do is just great. And I did really love this as a system.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
And the climax actually was quite good.
Yeah,
just through random dice misery.
Yeah, because your spells can, of course, go horribly wrong.
Yeah,
because it's magic.
Yeah, but if you have because it's open to GM interpretation, I think you can also talk to your GM about what you're comfortable with. If that happened in the game you were running, I know you know enough about my triggers involving luck that you could just if that happened with me, I would still experience a negative consequence, but it would be a negative consequence that my character could manage.
Yes.
And the GM I thought was also great about doing that the one time that happened. I don't know what his backup plan was. Had that second dice roll somehow failed.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he would have thought of something.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, very interesting system. Should we talk more about the specifics of the game?
Yeah.
So again, based on being a group of reporters working for a tabloid newspaper, so you're basically getting sent to a small town to investigate ghost sightings, because the paper it's a rag. One week they're printing complete nonsense about UFOs, and the next they're finding real magic. It's something that I do tend to find turns up quite a lot in urban fantasy, is that the terrible tabloid newspapers are actually on the money. It's just nobody believes them.
Yep. It's also worth noting this took place in the 1970s. I think we're the only two people at the table who couldn't remember the 1970s and weren't born yet.
That was a comment that I think went around, yes. Which is fine. Again, we had fun.
We did have fun.
Again, as my only real criticism is basically the same criticism I've had of pretty much everything, of almost everything this weekend, is that we would have liked more RP.
Yeah. The system was good, and I think once we got into the mystery, it was good. The first hour, I would have kind of encouraged the GM to kind of maybe not encourage so much pre-investigating. Once we were about 15 minutes into the pre-investigation before we got to the town, I'm okay, we've answered everything we could possibly know before getting there. We don't need to reestablish that this is definitely all we know.
Yeah, but again, the players really wanted to dig into the county records and do absolutely all the prep work they possibly could, and that's fine, but it didn't need to take an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah. Again, it was cute and to get people to know each other, but I think once we got there to the heart of the game, it felt like a good adventure. It was immersive. I was immersed a lot of the time. I enjoyed the magic. My character had some really great moments, and I will say, just because my character could see ghosts, I had to have a really cool art. The DM did know how to RP. We just weren't at a table who knew how to RP, but there was a moment between me and a ghost I could see that was just a really fun RP moment for me, where my character just got to be the star for a minute, and I was satisfied with that section.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And I thought I did a good job, too.
You did. Again, And again, it's mostly just we would have liked a little more of that generally throughout the weekend, and that's not on any individual GM. Like the GMs generally were like the GMs when you tried to RP with them were all really good about it. It's just for whatever reason most of the tables didn't seem interested, and I feel like we had that problem or that issue a little bit last year as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
We certainly had it with Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah. And it might just be more of like the con or the type of people who are playing. I will say we have had better luck in the like adventuring or the adventure groups that are there. So maybe we should try sticking to like games that are done by We Hate Bards or Matinee Adventures or the Untold Stories Project, because it seems like there was more RP in those rooms happening. And I don't really know if that's like a thing where it's because it's a gaming group they're more interested in that. They also do tend to skew a little bit younger. And I'm not saying that like old people can't RP.
I'm just wondering if there's been kind of a cultural shift in how people play tabletop games. Insofar as like before they were more mechanics focused, and now there's like a bigger push for more RP. You know, I'm not going to like put that on something like Critical Role.
Yeah.
But like actual plays are quite popular nowadays.
Yeah.
And they do tend to be very RP heavy relative to a typical table.
Well, and it's one of those things where I don't want every game to be an RP, because like not everyone can do that. Like I was talking a little bit last week about the game I was playing where it was like RP, but it was like narrative where you were just describing what your character does. And I think that's a great like introduction for people who can't do improv role play as easily.
Yep.
To kind of build up yourself to doing it. And I get some people just can't do it. They don't feel comfortable doing it. It's not what they want to do, and that's fine. And I want there to be places that are RP tables for them as well. It's hard when it's adventures like this that are so immersive to just not have those RP components, I think, for us. Because this was really immersive.
Oh, yeah. Like, I would have loved to talk to the table about what we were doing in character. Like, I don't feel like I found my character at all because I didn't have the opportunity to. Like, my character was the nature mage, effectively, and shapeshifter. So like I could turn into a dog. Yeah. That was great.
And it was also fun because there were like towards the end in particular, and I think part of it's just we ran out of time, and part of it's like people might not get it. Like there were some good ethical RP moments, and ethics RPs are great. Because characters have opinions on them, and they can be entirely different from your own opinions.
Yep.
And there were some ethical quandaries towards the end that would have been great to RP.
Yep. Which we didn't really get to.
No, we didn't. In part because we were running out of time at that point. I want to be clear, but at the same time, it would have been fun to RP that moment with you. Yeah. Other people, because I felt like I found my character's voice, but that's more because I got to have a couple RP moments with ghosts.
Yes, whereas again, like because part of the point of my character is like, yes, he can transform into a dog, but he also like he's a little off-putting to normal people.
Yeah,
because he's not great with normal people. And that would have been really interesting to play with, and I never really got the chance to. Yeah, because everybody was like. They were too focused on trying to research everything, for us to actually like stop in the town and talk to people terribly much.
We had to have a big game ending moment that pretty much had to work, or otherwise I think we would have died.
Yep.
Where like everyone gave their energy to me, and like there is a like fail system in this game where if you roll a 10 on a 10-sided die, you have the potential to get like very bad things to happen.
Yep.
And of course, in that moment, I rolled a 10.
Yep. Now, fortunately, you have to roll a second 10. In order for the actual negative effects.
Unfortunately, because everyone gave their energy to me. It's like the game, fortunately, unfortunately. I then had to roll 6 die, which I had you roll because I'm just like, I'm done at this point.
Yep.
And fortunately, none of those 6 die were 10s.
Yep. So we didn't get some kind of horrible magical explosion go off in our face. We had a bit of an almost there, but it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. Magically speaking, we got away with that. So, like a lot of fun, very silly. No, not very silly. Like mostly a case of like it's another one of my this could have been amazing and ended up being simply very good.
Yeah. Like this if you wanted to RP a bunch of magic users, this would have been the system to do it in. It's serious enough that you can get those real RP moments. Each person's going to have their own point of view about what they think magic should and shouldn't do.
Yep.
Like, all of those are great things that are ripe with RP. And I think the GM is perfectly capable of managing those conversations.
Yeah, like, you came away from this game telling me you wanted to run a campaign, or either run a campaign or be in a campaign.
I mean, if this GM was running a campaign with other people who wanted to RP in the system, I would absolutely play it, like, in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Because, like, The person was even commenting that he gave flavor to the ghost character I was interacting with very well, which he
Mm-hmm.
did. Like, you understood who that person was and what their purpose was.
Yeah.
And he got, like, I asked the name of the ghost because I thought it was, like, important for my character's RP moment, and he understood exactly what I was doing, which was great.
Oh, yeah. Like, again, it was... Yep. It was a very good game that could have been a phenomenal game.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, I'm willing to bet everybody else around the table had a lot of fun.
They did. And I had fun too. Like, I thought it was a great game. It just wasn't, a game that had, like, if it had RP, it would have been a fantastic game.
Yeah, which again, I think that's kind of our vibe this entire weekend. It's just, we had a lot of good games that could have been great and great games that could have been incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think there's just something about this con that, for whatever reason, doesn't skew as RP heavy as we like.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to last week, which was a lot more RP heavy.
Well, it happened a couple tables. Like, I will say, Good Society and Creature Double Feature both had people who came and understood the assignment.
Yeah.
It's just, we haven't been getting that as consistently throughout the weekends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, top favorite con moments? Do you have anything else you want to discuss?
I think, because at that point we headed out. Like, they were actively starting to kind of pack the con up around us,
which is pretty normal.
Yeah. So got on the road because 4-hour drive home.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of what we did.
Yeah, we still have an hour home. We're not letting this episode last 4 hours.
No,
that's mean.
No. We did, for the record, we didn't actually start recording until like half an hour because you needed a caffeine.
They can see the runtime. You don't need to explain it to them.
Technically, I do. I'm professional-ish.
Uh-huh. So, top favorite con moments. I think it's your turn to go first.
Probably, yes. I am... what do I want to go with? It probably has to be the moment I broke the GM during the art game. Nice. Just by completely out of nowhere relating, all the paintings we've been looking at back to 40K.
Mm-hmm.
Like that that was a moment he was not expecting, and I loved that moment. That was great.
Nice.
You?
I will take Good Society. It was a game that had a major hiccup in it, and people still managed to make it work, which is great. And it's still a game that I just adore. It. I pretty much always want to play more of it. So.
It's very fair. Honestly, the moment when I realized that Gordon Diablo was probably going to win the bake-off, I was like, oh, god damn it, I wrote this character to be... I designed this character to be the... he had no actual baking skills. He was just incredibly self-confident. How is he the one who's winning? It's emotionally, this character doesn't deserve to win anything. Which everybody else at the table also understood, and also knew that the dice gods were going to make it, so I did win.
I will probably take Lumberjills generally, because it was a very interesting game. I'm extremely glad we played it. And particularly the moment where the person who was the other player at the table with us said that we made her feel safe and comfortable. Because that was an intense RP experience. I'm glad that she had a fun time.
Yeah. I would agree.
And as a reminder, these aren't in any particular order.
Yeah. I take it I'm not allowed to put going to Tasty's Burger?
If you want to do that, you can.
You'll judge me for it, though.
Yeah.
Because it's not actually part of the con, technically. No. What I would probably go with is... edge. Just, the fact I got the opportunity to tell the GM for Vampire 2, how much we enjoyed it, and the fact, we'd been talking about it all year, and, he was... I think he was really happy to hear that. Knowing that we had that much fun.
Yeah, I maintain he is one of the best comedic GMs I've seen. Yeah. And not that there's a difference in types of GMs. That's just a style that I know works for him because I've seen him do it multiple times. So.
Yeah. So yeah, your last one.
I will probably actually take Monty Python and get on with it. I thought the GM did a really great job running that game. They did a great job admitting what they know, looking up stuff that they didn't, and the puns and jokes actually I thought really worked. And that's a hard game to carry at a 3-person table, and I thought everyone did a great job with it. So.
They did. Oh, is that what the game was actually called? Was it called Get On With It? Or?
I think so. I don't remember.
I mean, that would make sense. Again, it is a Python reference.
Yeah.
So yeah, that you know. Other than that, do we want to talk about what we didn't do?
There's a lot of things we didn't do. So pretty much all of the board games.
Yep. Again, a lot of different stuff going on. Some people like playtesting stuff and doing various things like that, which is always fun to see. Lots of various bits and bobs.
Yeah, it's hard at a board game con to talk about what you didn't do because it's most of the stuff.
Yeah, there's so much stuff on at any board game con. The one thing I will say about this convention is it feels like their GM to player ratio is off. Insofar as I think they have more people running who want to run stuff at this con, which means they were definitely having issues with games not filling, games not running as a result of just not having enough players, which is kind of a feels bad situation for everybody involved.
Yeah.
I noticed that with multiple.
Some people were also talking about it, how they weren't getting what they.
It's the reason why I mentioned earlier that I don't want to run at this con because I don't want to add to the problem.
Yeah. It does just kind of seem like there's a lot of people who are like running similar games. There's a lot going on. Like a lot of games aren't making because of that.
Yep.
And it's also difficult to tell what's going to make and what's not because some people have like friends that they can pull in, some people don't. So it's just kind of hard.
Yep.
And you kind of also have to strategy about what you sign up for based on like who is, how many people are signed up for the game and stuff like that.
Yep. Like again, I genuinely did not think my Fellowship of the White Star game was going to run. Because I was the only person, I thought I was the only person signed up to play it. So I basically just went to the table more out of a sense of, well, I signed up for this, I'll at least, say hi to the GM, but there were other people at the table. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
Those were, I think, the main things. So now there's a definitive con ranking system. Would we go back?
If it doesn't clash with the Catacon.
Yes. I think we are picking a Catacon one just because it's closer to, like...
It's better.
I just want to say that.
No, here's the thing. This con doesn't do anything wrong. It's just, for whatever reason, the vibes of a Catacon are better. And I don't know what it is. Like, it's not something that's really tangible that I think the con can fix. It's just, a Catacon, I think, caters to our style of play more than this con does.
Yes, I think it's a little bit of that. People also this year did seem a little bit like more tired and a little bit more grumpy than normal. I don't know if that's just because we were more tired and grumpy or what.
We weren't the only people to comment on it.
Yeah, and it wasn't bad by any means. It was just there were a couple small interactions that were a bit weird and people seemed more tired. Yep. I don't really know what it's about.
Yeah. Like, again, I like this con. It's a 4-hour drive, and I don't have a problem with the fact that we went to it.
No, it was definitely, I think, worth it. It's reasonably priced. It's close. It's fun. And, like, the thing is, like, there's not a lot of smaller tabletop cons in our area. So,
yeah.
I do like going to them because there's a lot about smaller tabletop cons to like. I can get into more games. I can basically play what I want. I get to know people on a more personal level. Like, I like cons like this. And I definitely want this con to keep existing.
I would agree. No, it's just... It was a pretty good weekend. And sometimes pretty good is good enough.
Yeah.
Like, whereas last weekend I think was just a really fantastic weekend.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Also, the GM for... I doubt they're still listening to this, but if the GM for the vampire game we played last year is still listening to this, that was a day before I had surgery last year, and like that game was such an amazing gift to have before that surgery.
Yeah,
it calmed me down. It gave me what I needed to get through that, and like,
yeah,
I didn't tell you that because I think I just kind of wasn't thinking about it, and I kind of, if I see you again, I probably will, because
you kind of needed, you needed something to distract you.
Yeah,
and like that game ended up being exactly what you needed at that moment.
Yeah, and it was just amazing, and thank you for that, because that really helped me during a difficult time in my life. So,
okay. So on that fairly heartfelt note, I think that's it. Next week, we are not entirely sure what our plans are.
We might do another off week where we just rank random things. Those episodes are popular. Like 2 people listen to those.
It's great. Largely because next Sunday, Toby needs to go and get his second vaccine shot.
And I have to get medical testing done.
Yay!
Yay!
Toby, for the record, is our bunny.
Yes.
Or one of our 2 bunnies.
The shy one.
The shy one. As opposed to the adventurous one.
He's escaped so many times.
He has. It's great. So, yeah. Yeah, we'll be getting back to them in about another 40 minutes or so. And for the record, we have a pet sitter. Like, we did not leave bunnies alone for multiple days.
No, we just took our dog because we wanted to do a trip with her just to, give her some time.
Yeah. So she doesn't get too jealous of her new brothers.
So, see you next week, probably.
Yep. Probably for something, who knows. And then the week after that, we'll be in
Starbase
Indianapolis for Starbase Indy, where you're presenting a fairly serious panel, and then I'm doing a really stupid game show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.